You are listening to the Heavy Metal Hangover, where the beer is always cold and the music is always heavy.
With your hosts wearing jeans and leather, not Cracker Jack clothes, Rex and Duff.
Welcome to another episode of the Heavy Metal Hangover. My name is Duff.
My name is Rex.
And here we are again.
So,
go ahead.
I wanted to give a disclaimer.
Whatever you were going to say, it's more important than mine, because mine was just going to be here we are again on a Friday. So go ahead.
I was going to say, just as a disclaimer, I got a new computer, and I've set it up for, podcasting and everything else like that. So if this episode sounds a little weird, it's still because I'm using new software, because my old software was tied to a license that isn't mine. I got it through work. So I wanted to transfer everything over. So I'm just giving everybody a heads up. If this episode sounds like crap, or sounds a little off or weird or different than our previous episodes, give me some time to adjust, and then hopefully it'll all be better after that.
That works. I mean, if both of our listeners could let us know if this sounds okay.
Yeah, if the two of you could let us know this sounds okay.
Oh man. But we used to have listeners, and then we stopped being cool.
Yeah, well,
and I should be upset about that, but that would require caring, and it's just weird. It's very weird. I don't even know where to begin. I guess people got sick of hearing the same stories over and over again.
Yeah,
or at least that's what they tell us.
I like telling the same. Hey, I did want to say something else. I'm excited. I wanted to share my excitement. I shared it on Instagram. So this past weekend, I went to a record show, a really big record show, the Rock Show. I was, going through stuff, and sorry, you sent me something funny.
No, and I would wear that too.
Yeah, I know you would. So I was, going through the records and stuff, and I see a copy of Kill 'Em All, and I'm like, oh, this is a really cool copy of Kill 'Em All. I'm like, I have an older version, like an 80s copy, and I have a repress. And I would look at the price tag, and I'm like, oh, why is this? And I look at it, I'm like, oh my God, it's a Megaforce Kill 'Em All. So for those of you who don't know, and a lot of you probably do, so when Metallica was still up and coming, they were signed to Megaforce Records here in Jersey, in Old Bridge, actually, which isn't too terribly far. Yep, which is not too terribly far from my house. Later on, they got signed to Elektra, and, all of those records moved over into Elektra's catalog. So if you have an old copy, if you have a modern copy or like a mid-'80s copy of Kill 'Em All, it's probably an Elektra copy, meaning the label Elektra. But this was a Megaforce copy, which means it was one of the original, like, 83, 84 copies of Kill 'Em All. So, you'd been proud of me. I wheeled and dealed with the guy and then ended up buying it. So it completed my set because I have a first press of Exodus's Bonded by Blood, of Slayer's Show No Mercy, of Anthrax's Fistful of Metal, of Megadeth's Killing Is My Business and Business Is Good. The only thing that was missing is, while I did have an 80s copy of Kill 'Em All, I didn't have a first press of Kill 'Em All. I didn't have a Megaforce, because I've always, the Megaforce has always been one of those records where I'm like, I just happened to get a good price on it. So I listened to it yesterday, or the other day. The record sounds like I just bought it today, and I don't mean like literally, because I did just buy it today, but I mean it sounds like I bought a brand new copy and put it on my record player. So very happy with that purchase.
Actually, I hope it sounds better than my copy of the Black Album that I bought when it was redone. Because they re-released the Black Album, I don't know, like 2 years ago. Well, I mean, whatever. I just mean that they repressed a new version of it on vinyl.
Yeah.
And dude, it's horrible. Like, Holier Than Thou skips in like 3 different places.
Well,
and so dude, it was the first time I played it. And by the way, Sir Google has told me that was obnoxiously common, that there were huge problems with that release, that mine just happened to be Holier Than Thou. But I couldn't tell you if anything else skips, because I got so mad that Holier Than Thou kept skipping that I never played side B. It was just there was problems with it across the board.
So let me ask you a question though. Was it that the record like sounded bad, or was it that it physically had flaws?
Like, is there a physical? If you look at the record, is there a problem with it? No. Like, was there a scratch on it? No.
But I mean, like, what I mean is, like, if the record wouldn't have skipped, would it? That's what I mean. Like, was it? It sounded bad because the record skipped, or was it if the record played through perfectly, it would have sounded fine?
It would have sounded fine if the record played through.
Okay, so that's right, because
it wasn't a sound problem. It was likely a pressing problem.
So I've heard of this, and a long time ago, back in like the 70s, I think, or something, when Led Zeppelin 2 came out, there was actually a copy of Led Zeppelin 2. I believe it's called the RL pressing, and basically the problem was that people were putting this record on their record players, and it was mastered so hot that the grooves were actually causing, like, the cheaper record players, the consumer record players, to skip. So they actually had to go back and remaster it quieter so that the record players wouldn't jump around. You know, and I'm not saying you don't have a cheap record player. It's not what I'm saying is the problem here. But so, you know, but the RL pressings for Led Zeppelin 2 are like super sought after. I'm wondering if this wasn't some kind of mastering problem where they mastered it hot. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's weird because I actually think I did listen. I know on side A though, it's like it plays the first two tracks fine, and then Holier Than Thou it gets all screwy. Now, I have not played it on my current player, but my last player was equally as good and had the same need. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it was Holier Than Thou that got all screwed up. But I do remember reading there were. But I will also say the problems were inconsistent. What I mean is there would be, because you bought it at the same time as I did, and I think yours was fine.
Yeah, I didn't have any problems.
No, yeah, it was a weird. I don't know. I don't know if it was a specific batch of them.
Well, let me ask you a question. Did you try?
I don't know what they.
Did you try cleaning it?
Go ahead. Yes.
Okay. Because
what I'm saying is I troubleshooted it the way I would normally troubleshoot it. Now I have not done. I haven't played it in a long time. Could I go upstairs and try it again and, spit shine it? I mean, I don't know. I could try it again.
It just needed.
Maybe there isn't. Maybe there. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there isn't as much of a problem. I'm simply saying I do remember when that came out, not being alone and having a problem that was all screwbally. It seemed like it was just a crapshoot as to whether or not you got one that worked. I mean, whatever. I don't care. It's not a big deal. And it's not like I spent a lot of money on it.
Yeah. I used a coupon.
Yeah, I mean, it literally, it's actually, interestingly enough, it was one of the least expensive new albums I've bought in a long time. You know what I mean? It was like, I don't even think it was $20. It was cheap. So whatever. I mean, God forbid it I mean, it could have just skipped through Enter Sandman and I never would have known. I would have never found out that there was a problem with Enter Sandman because that's a record I start on track 2. There are just some records I start on track 2.
I'll be honest with you, like the Black album for me, I do like Enter Sandman. I know it's played out. I know that you don't hate the song; it's just played out for you. And I get
I love the song. I just don't ever want to hear it again.
I know,
but we
like Back in Black.
There's a number of songs, but Back in Black's one of the greatest albums ever recorded by any band. I don't ever want to hear it again.
That album, though, for me, in my opinion, it's the greatest backyard barbecue song of all time. Like,
yeah, I mean.
I find myself constantly putting on and we've kind of did this before. We just recently talked about this, but I've been, I got a charcoal grill. You've been kind of giving me advice on how to use it and stuff like that. So I've been, every time it has not been raining, I've cooked my dinner on the charcoal grill, like every single time.
Me too, which is why I cooked on it once this year. Not really, I cooked on it a bunch, but in Monday we'll start week 6, and starting Monday being week 6, there have been 2 days without rain.
We've had a couple
in the last 6 weeks.
We've had a bunch here in Jersey, but
literally 2. It's so crazy.
I bought a little CD tape player boombox, just to like take out of my. I don't know. Like I kind of just wanted to the same reason I started listening to records and stuff is why I bought a little boombox for my patio, because I found myself like when I just hook up to a Bluetooth speaker and putting on a playlist, I found myself, I'm not in the mood for that. Oh, I'm not in the mood for that. Oh, I'm not, and I just skip. Oh, this, you know. So I decided, okay, I'm gonna like use my CD and tape collection and listen to that on the patio. Plus, there's nothing cooler than cooking on a barbecue when it's a nice day outside, drinking beer and listening to sleazy cassettes, like, you know, 80s glam metal on sleazy cassettes, right? So, and for those of you who are new, I always laugh about we always talk on this show about how the best format to listen to glam metal is not record, is not CD, it's cassette. Why? Because cassette is the absolute sleaziest format ever invented. Because it sounded terrible, it had no longevity whatsoever, but it did what you needed it to do. Like a good yeah. You didn't want
it had no longevity, wasn't really worth much, but it worked at the time.
Yeah, it's just like the girl you pick up at, you know, right before last call.
Well, it's the girl you picked up that was listening to it.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, you know, it's like the girl you picked up at last call. Look, it's not ideally where you'd like to be, but you know what? It gets the job done, and at the time, it filled the need.
Look, it's like. That cassette didn't exactly have great sound quality, but it beat whatever was on AM radio.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's kind of like she wasn't very attractive, but she beat my right hand.
Yeah, exactly. Jill. Yeah, you know.
Yeah. Or that of course you have Vinny, who, by the way, happy birthday.
Oh yeah, happy birthday, Vinny.
As we are recording this, happy birthday, Vinny. Or then you have Vinny. Stop! I'll just do this myself.
I'll do it myself.
My favorite thing he ever said. Stop, I'll just do this myself. Like, why'd you say this? Like, oh, she scraped teeth.
And then, like, of course, he was like, no, you watch.
Yeah, he did, too. This is great. No, you watch. God, he's a horrible
She's like trying to get up to leave, and he's like, no, you stay and watch. Oh, Vinny. No, but
but in fairness, though, In fairness, though, that is the girl we told him, you know, got the clap and he needed to go get tested about it. So
we convinced him.
We got back at him for her.
We convinced him that, he's like, oh man, this girl, she's got a rash like everywhere. You should. And then we're like laughing, and like 2 hours later, we're like, ha ha ha, that's funny. We should tell him we were kidding. And then he's like, we call him and he's like, we're like, ha ha, we got you. And he's like, wait, you guys were kidding? And we're like, yeah. And he goes, oh, man, I got tested. I even got the swab.
Right. I mean, the term the swab became a big actually, it was a running joke on the show for a while, too. But that was a running joke with us for many, many years that Vinny got the swab.
Swab.
Got the swab. I don't know. I don't even know if that's a phrase that anybody else in the right mind would use. But in our world, there is a phrase, and it's called the swab. I don't know, man. What a freaking week it's been. Yeah, I gotta tell you, you know, you've been talking about grilling. Like, I'm not exaggerating when I say, now, do I mean it's rained all day? No. But there has been rain every day -2 in the last 5.5 weeks. And up until this past Thursday, now mind you, as recording this, it is June 6th. Spring should have started sometime in April. I got my Harley out of the garage and into my driveway. Because look, my garage, it's at the end of my property. It's kind of weird. Like, you can't, there's actually not a driveway. So imagine it's a garage that's really just a major storage shed. Whatever. You get my point. Anyway, I park my motorcycle in the garage. I park the hog in the garage and keep it there during the winter because I'm not keeping it in my driveway during the winter. But then once spring and summer come, I take it out of the garage and I don't go in and out of the garage. Like, I take it out, I put it in my driveway, and I just put a cover on it, but I leave it out because I don't want to take it in and out of there. It's a pain in my ass. So anyway, it was like early April. The weather starts getting a little better. I get the Harley. I get it out of the garage. I put it in my driveway. And up until this past Thursday, the only miles I had put on it this year were to the gas station and back. Like, okay, so a little thing that I don't, Rex, I don't expect you to know this because I know you don't ride. Motorcycles, a lot of them don't even have a gas gauge. And if your motorcycle does have a gas gauge, any rider will tell you you should probably ignore it. And so what almost everybody does that rides is when you fill your tank, you just, the tripometer, you reset it. And then if you roughly know how many miles you can get on a tank, like let's say that that you can get a 150 miles, I'm making this up. You can get 150 miles on your tank. You'll say, good. When that tripometer starts getting over 100, I know I need to get gas. There you go. If you do that, you will never run. You'll never be caught without gas. Anyway, I'm saying that because that's how I know I had clocked a total of like 2.5 miles on my motorcycle. And I think it's because I rode it around the block a couple of times just to make sure it was like warmed up.
It's fun.
And here I'm sitting here like staring out the window, waiting for it to stop raining so I can ride the damn thing.
That's why I'm happy my hobby
I did, by the way, go to a bike night on Thursday, which I realize this has nothing to do with the show per se, but in the same way you play hockey, like I look forward to summer so I can ride. And I went to interestingly, I went to a bike night. It was at an American Legion post, which those are super cool. I mean, it's mostly older people, but regardless, it's super cool. And I'm not someone who plans out what I'm wearing, but I had a Cannibal Corpse t-shirt on. And so a dude definitely come up to me and was like, dude, and he told me he'd seen Cannibal Corpse like 15 times. So we hung out and talked about Cannibal Corpse for a little bit until he left. But so it was kind of cool. But yeah, I put like 75 miles on it on Thursday. But that's it. I mean, the weather has just been garbage. And it rained all day today. It's going to rain all day tomorrow. Sunday, I don't know. But then it's going to rain Monday through Friday next week. So I'm going, this is complete and utter hogwash. It's like I need to start listening to. Normally, I don't want to listen to Typo Negative until October, but that started this year in April. It's been a lovely fall so far. It's been the way we've been talking about it here is like, well, it's been a great fall so far.
Yeah, today was the first hot day here in Jersey. First really
Thursday warmed up. It was like 75, 80 degrees, which was nice because I got to. Well, no, what is it in Braveheart? Like, this is great Scottish weather. The rain's coming straight down. Proper Southern or proper Scottish weather. However he says it.
I'm happy that my hobbies aren't weather dependent, at least not in modern times. But I can play hockey. I just played hockey this morning actually, so it is 90 degrees out. So, anyway, so back to music.
My main hobby isn't. My main hobby isn't weather dependent either. It's just dependent on if there's anybody else in the room. I mean,
or if you make sure, or at least an internet connection.
If the internet goes out, it's like, dude, there's nothing worse than having to rely on your own imagination. Anyway, enough of that.
I was laughing. I'm like, you were talking about going to the gas station. I'm like, I sent you a Saturday Night Live clip today where this guy goes into.
Oh yeah, I've seen that before. Yeah,
the guy goes into the convenience store with his fiance and he buys 2 cherry sodas and he's like, "Hey, wait a minute! You're the guy that used to come in every week and buy a raspberry soda and a porno mag." And the one guy comes out from the back room and he's like, "Hey, it's the porno guy." And I asked you, I'm like, "Is this how they greet you at the gas station? Hey, it's the porno guy."
Yeah, well, I mean, back before it was easily accessible on my cell phone. Oh man, I don't know. Anyway,
the thing is, I'm not saying you buy anything from there. They just know you.
Well, it's not. The thing is, though, it's not even that they know me. You can just tell by looking at me.
That's true.
I can't tell you how many times I've gone somewhere and someone goes, "I recognize you." You're a pervert, aren't you? I mean, I just get that all the time. It's like, what is it about me? There is something about before they even meet me. Like normally, I would think that you would have to at least hear me talk before you would jump to the conclusion that I'm probably a filthy human being. If you're listening to me talk, I get it, right? And my voice is loud, so you would overhear me from across the bar. But as I've gotten older, it's just people just kind of, it's like they just see it. they just see the look on me. I don't know what.
Oh my God. Okay, so this is relevant to music.
Good.
Don't you hate when this happens? So today, I need to order the new Haunted. I wanted to order the new Haunted record. Okay.
Right.
Sold out on Amazon. I don't like ordering from Amazon anyways. The only time I will still order from Amazon is, look, I ordered a couple records today from Amazon because the only other place I could find them, each record was $7 more expensive. I'm not spending an extra $30 because I don't like Amazon.
Right.
Anyways, point being,
possibly even before shipping. Yeah.
well, yeah. And then you're going to pay shipping on top of that. So look, otherwise, if it's a buck or two, I normally try to, a few bucks, I usually try to support the smaller records. So I ordered from Plaid Room Records today. I ordered...
Which is a great record store, by the way.
It is. I ordered the Haunted's new album, and then it was like either I pay $7 for shipping or I order another record. So normally I usually order another record that I want anyways, because I'm like... when it comes to paying shipping on something like that, it feels like if you don't order something you're eventually going to buy, it's kind of like getting a discount in my mind. You know what I mean? So like instead of paying $7 to ship, you're basically getting $7 off a record in a roundabout way. I don't know. Either way, that's how I rationalize it to myself. So I bought David Bowie's Low.
Well, that's how everybody does it.
The reason I bring this up is because literally I ordered these records 6 hours ago. I ordered them about 5 o'clock, right? I just got an email from Plaid Room Records. Tomorrow, the discount starts. 15% off everything. Just add it to your cart. I hate when that happens. I just ordered 2 records.
Email them.
I ordered 2 records. They already shipped it.
Oh. Well, that's what happens when they start shipping.
Well,
they need to be an eBay seller and just put label printed and wait 2 weeks to ship it.
Well, and look, I'm not faulting them. Because, there's 2 ways, when you're buying music or buying anything online, there's 2 schools of thought. You either wait for a sale and you don't get anything, and you could risk it selling out, because they only had 2 copies of the Haunted's new album left. Because right. On their website, they tell you how many copies they have. They only had 2 copies left. Now, is there a chance those 2 copies are going to sell out in 24 hours? No. But obviously, I also didn't know a sale was going up, and it could be 6 months before they have a sale for all I know. So, I'm sitting there, so... While I don't necessarily feel bad, I'm just kind of like, oh, come on. You know what I mean? Like, but it's just disheartening. So I also ordered David Bowie's Low. So yeah, I mean, like I said, it's just frustrating. So it has to do with music. You're always in that perpetual state. Oh, I did order some cool stuff though from Hell's Headbangers. I think I did tell you this. I ordered Night of the Storm Rider on vinyl. That's why the last Iced Earth album I care to own that I don't already. So I got Night of the Storm Rider, right. And then I finally finished my Destruction collection. The only thing I'm missing is Live Without Sense. I have everything else from at least from their first run, their 80s run. So I'm kind of happy about that as well. So I got some cool records today, and they're all going to be coming in the mail soon enough. The stuff I ordered from Amazon, I don't care about.
What I stand behind this as my review of the album Night of the Storm Rider. Now let me clarify. If you are looking at Night of the Storm Rider by itself and not taking into account anything that they re-recorded with Matt Barlow, okay? So
Days of Purgatory, Alive in Athens are out.
Days of Purgatory or Alive in Athens, okay? If you take those out of the equation, Night of the Storm Rider is basically a flawless record start to finish. It is easily, I would say it's a perfect album as long as you, I'm trying to remember the name of it, hold on. As long as you realize that Before the Vision is a minute-long little instrumental thing. So as long as you, reaching the end at the end, toward the end of the album is a minute long, but that's actually a song. So as long as we realize that a minute-long melodic little mood track, right? It's a cool song, but that little mood track, as long as we're not dropping that and saying, well, that's not great. Okay, I like that anyway. I would say that Night of the Storm Rider is an absolutely perfect album. I would even go as far as to say, from a writing perspective, I would almost argue it's their best written album. Now, look, I'm with everybody else who loves the Dark Saga, and I know, Rex, you especially love the Dark Saga, and I do. But the thing about Night of the Storm Rider is it is the most. If I wanted to describe John Schaefer as a writer or as a guitar player, Night of the Storm Rider is the record that highlights it the most. It is an almost thrash metal album. The triplets are insanity. Start to finish, they're all over the place. But yet the songs still have loads of melody. It's also a concept record. Now, so is Dark Saga. But anything else he did that was a concept record that the Dark Saga is a concept record, but it's also not his story, right? It's Spawn. Anything else he did where he thought up a story, like the Something Wicked stuff with Set Upon, those are just crap. The Something Wicked trilogy is cool, but I mean, like, later. Anyway, I would argue Night of the Storm Rider as a complete album is their best album. And if you ignore everything that came after it, listening to Night of the Storm Rider, again, if you've never heard Iced Earth, but you're into that kind of metal, and I hand you Night of the Storm Rider, the record would absolutely and completely blow you away in every way. The problem is there's nothing wrong with the vocals on the album. There's nothing wrong. I mean, I can't stand the vocals on the first record. There's absolutely nothing negative that I would ever say about the vocals on Night of the Storm Rider, except Matt Barlow made them better in every way. Not just Matt Barlow's vocal tone is a big improvement, but he also, a lot of the vocal melodies are different. And again, for Rex's example, I mean, I know you've heard it, but if you've never listened to Night of the Storm Rider start to finish, there are going to be songs on there. Travel in Stygian is a great example.
Travel.
Angels Holocaust, another great example, where there are going to be parts of the song where you're used to singing it, or you're used to hearing it the way Matt Barlow sings it, and this will sound a little weird. So, I mean, to me, it's kind of like, I mean, if you're used to hearing Bruce Dickinson, and then all of a sudden you hear Paul Di'Anno, I realize why someone would be like, okay, Bruce Dickinson. But I'm just saying that, there's the vocals on this record are very good. Just you have to realize that Matt Barlow did them better. So while I say it's a flawless record, it is. It's just, you can't really say that, well, that record was great until I heard someone else, okay, fine. I will say this, though. Almost every song on this record is done on Alive in Athens, except for Reaching the End and Mystical End, the two little quiet ones, and the song, Before the Vision and Reaching the End, the two little quiet ones. But the only actual song on the record that's not on Alive in Athens is Mystical End. Angels Holocaust, Storm Rider, Path I Choose, Desert Rain, Pure Evil, and Travel in Stygian are all on Alive in Athens. I say this for one reason. All of the songs that I just mentioned, again, Angels Holocaust, Storm Rider, Path I Choose, Desert Rain, Pure Evil, Travel in Stygian, every single one of those songs individually is better on Alive in Athens. Now, in fairness, everything Iced Earth did up until Alive in Athens sounds better on Alive in Athens. Every song from Dark Saga, every song on Alive in Athens is better than every studio version. That is the truth. So, yes, if you listen to Travel in Stygian from Night of the Storm Rider, and you listen to Travel in Stygian from Alive in Athens, the Travel in Stygian on Alive in Athens is considerably better. However, every song on Night of the Storm Rider is a better song when it's put back in context of the record. Because Night of the Storm Rider, it is a concept album. And the problem with Alive in Athens is it separates those songs into just separate songs through the record. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. All I'm getting at is Night of the Storm Rider as a unit. You might say to me, well, Pure Evil sounds way better when Barlow does it on Alive in Athens. Well, clearly it's going to sound better on Alive in Athens. But it's a better song when it's put in context with everything else on it. So my pitch to anyone, first of all, if you're not an Iced Earth fan, but you like Iron Maiden meets Metallica, you know what I mean? Like, it's got a lot of thrashiness to it. It's got a lot of, Iron Maiden, that sort. If you like that sort of thing and you're not into Iced Earth, check out Night of the Storm Rider because it doesn't sound like power metal. The Matt Barlow years were a bit closer to power metal. This is a lot less power metal. This is more like classic metal. This is more classic metal. It's not really power metal. But so I would say if you're not into Iced Earth, check this record out, especially if you like listening to rhythm guitars, because the rhythm guitar in this record is like, the way people talk about James Hetfield in Master of Puppets, like it's that kind of thing where you go, dude, how does your hand not fall off doing any of these songs, let alone the record? It's crazy. The other thing I would say is if you like Iced Earth, but you've never heard this record, go back and give it a shot. But what you can't do is don't listen to Travel in Stygian or Pure Evil by itself and expect to like it if you like the Matt Barlow version. Just don't do that. I encourage everybody with this record to sit down, put it on their stereo, put it on their earbuds, whatever you want to do, listen to the record through, and take it as a concept record. Take it as, Operation Mindcrime, maybe not to that level, but I think you'll realize, A, that it's an amazing album, A, that it's a flawless album if you're not comparing it to Matt Barlow doing it, and every song is better in context. Where if someone wanted to hear Iced Earth for the first time, I've always sent them to Alive in Athens. I always will, because I think it's the best thing the band's ever recorded. But Night of the Storm Rider is probably their best. I'll put it this way. I think it's their best album but let's be fair. Like, you mentioned Kill 'Em All earlier. Kill 'Em All is an amazing record, but you can't put it next to Master of Puppets. You can't take Kill 'Em All and put it next to live versions of those songs. Like, what I mean is, like, you can't put it next to when James Hetfield eventually learned how to sing. His vocals were not good on Kill 'Em All. They fit the music, just like this fits the music. So anyway, that's kind of my point. If you've never heard Night of the Storm Rider, give it a listen. For all those guitar players out there, I don't know if you're into John Schaefer. I don't know if you're into Iced Earth, but the guitar playing on this record is just bonkers. I mean, it's bonkers. And Rex, you know what I'm talking about. John Schaefer's ability to play those triplets, to play those, well, they're gallops, not really triplets, but there is a difference. Him doing those at blistering speed constantly it's an incredible performance for everybody. And I really do think the vocals on this album are incredible, as long as you're not comparing them to Matt Barlow. You got to remember, though, actually, Matt Barlow's vocals on Burn Offerings, once you start noticing, John Schaefer flat out said he did lows and highs. Matt Barlow didn't have a mid-range on Burn Offerings at all, and I never really realized it. But if you listen to the album Burn Offerings, until you realize that John Schaefer did almost as much of the vocals as Matt did, like, when you listen to Burn Offerings, you realize John Schaefer did a ton of the vocals on that record. Matt didn't start doing the majority of the vocals really until the Dark Saga, when he really learned. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's my point. Night of the Storm Rider, killer record. And Rex, like I said, I don't expect you to like any track on it as much as you like the Alive in Athens, but I do think you'll appreciate the record, not on a track-by-track basis, but I think you'll appreciate the whole thing better as a unit than you would if you just... I've
listened to it. I've listened to it before. I just don't... I mean, I've heard it before. I bought it because I didn't have it. Not because I've never heard it before.
And I know you've heard it before, but I mean, I'm just saying like the way, when you sit down and really, like you do with records, when you sit down and you give it that, that different kind of listen, you just can't A/B the tracks. You just can't go, well, Desert Rain sounds better on a live. Well, of course it sounds better on a Live in Athens. Everything did. But anyway, that's kind of
what I was going to say though was
point.
Yeah, so I mean, I was going to bring up too that, oh yeah, so a friend of mine asked me, he goes, "Oh, now that you have that, are you going to get their first album?" And I was laughing because I always think of like, what do I say?
What kills me about the first Ice Earth record? In total fairness, the vocals aren't bad. They're actually not bad. If you realize they're basically thrash metal vocals. That's what they are. He was a thrash metal vocalist. The band, I mean, the first Ice Earth record is damn near a thrash metal album. It's just, it pushes a little bit more melodic. And again, let's be fair, dude. And I don't mean to offend anybody out there, but listen to like Exodus. Bailoff was not a good singer by any means. His voice was cool. Plenty of those thrash guys, their voice was just cool. I actually think the original singer in Iced Earth, his voice was kind of cool. I don't want to hear it because I think of Iced Earth as a band with a lot more melody. And, he was fired because John wanted him to start taking singing lessons. But, hey, whatever. I agree with you, though. I hear that. What do I see?
Yeah, so I don't know.
But When the Night Falls, by the way, the first Ice Earth album has When the Night Falls, which is still one of the greatest songs ever wrote. But again, let me give you an example. Like on that record, it's like, When the Night Falls. You give it to Matt Barlow and it's When the Night Falls. Huge difference between, one, A and B is not even the same thing. But
your problem.
I don't even want to own the first record.
I was gonna say your problem with your problem is always a lot of times with thrash is the vocals. Like you hate Violence's vocals.
Oh, dude, Violence's vocals are god awful. I hate being that guy that says like Nuclear Assault's the same way.
I don't mind him. I think he fits the music.
No, but you know what? Actually, let me say this about Nuclear Assault though. Nuclear Assault also goes the speed over substance. Maybe that sounds really obnoxious to put it that way. When I listen to Nuclear Assault, I listen to they're playing as fast as they can, but that's pretty much it. And I know that sounds horrible. But I can't stand the vocals in Violence. I also haven't listened to Nuclear Assault in like 20 years. So my opinion of it might be different.
So we're coming up on almost 40 minutes in. So you had some things you actually wanted to do or talk about.
Well, yeah. So I had one I wanted to talk about, but I actually want to jump into the rankings only because the other conversation is either something that's going to be pointless in last 10 seconds or something that we accidentally go on for 6 hours about. And I do want to get some rankings.
Hello, me. It's me again.
I want to preface this, and then I want to ask you
like to
which direction you want to go. I want to ask you which direction you want to go.
You're well aware of which direction I go.
Well, I know.
The opposite direction of Vinny.
Yeah, well, that's true. So, again, I'm going to pose you two choices, although my choice would be kind of a little bit of both. But let me show you what I mean. You have talked before about when you are discovering a new band, one you've never heard before, you like to look at rankings.
Yes.
You go on Reddit, someone lists a ranking, and I don't think you're weird in this category. I think a lot of people are that way. At least from the perspective of where do I start? That's a good thing to do. Now, I realize sometimes, and we've talked about this, sometimes the answer is obvious. I've never heard Metallica, where do I start? The answer is not Saint Anger. I would even argue the answer is dependent on the person. I would argue that my answer of where to start with Metallica would not be the same for every person. I realize that I realize there are just records that are standouts and records that are crappy. That being said, there's kind of, with some bands, it becomes super obvious, and then some bands, it's just all over the place. And I mentioned, I think last week or the week before, I saw people were ranking Halloween albums, and 50 people ranked them, and none of them were the same, even remotely. Like, it was crazy. Because their records are they're all so good, but they all have their own character, and like, it just depends how it's not like they don't really have albums that are better than others. It's more just like which ones hit you. It's really interesting. But what I wanted to do with you is I made a list of 20. None of these are obscure bands. All of these are bands our listeners have heard of. All of our listeners have heard of. I know you've heard of. I know you know them very well. So maybe that's a slightly less interesting topic than if we were to pick lesser known bands, but I don't like to make this show about an hour-long conversation of bands you've never heard of. It's kind of silly. But I have a question for you.
Okay.
You could go either way with this, or my vote would be we just differentiate. Anyway, if I were to give you, let's say, this is not one. Let's say I asked you about the 4 albums Metallica put out in the 80s. And I would ask you to rank them. Okay. Here's my question. And again, we're not doing this one because I don't care. Here's my question for you. Do you want to rank them literally in order of what you like the best? Like, you might say, I like Ride the Lightning the best and Injustice for All the least. That would be my answer, is I like Ride the Lightning the best and Injustice for All the least. Or do you want to do this as if someone wanted to listen to this band, how would you rank them? Let me explain what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
My favorite is Ride the Lightning. However, if I was doing a Reddit list of someone else wants to listen to them, I would go Master of Puppets.
So I think that,
or we could do both. I mean, you might do what I just did and like just differentiate.
I think that, so when I look at those rankings, 9 times out of 10 it's people's favorite albums because, well, first of all, I think objectively, in my opinion, and we've talked about this before, I hate doing best albums. So,
well, and I'm not saying best, but more.
No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. I'm saying like
ranking
so.
How some, my favorite. My favorite Megadeth record is Euthanasia.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have someone start.
Let me put it this way though. I think I'd rather do favorite, and the reason why is because, I think that it skews. Like, for instance, if you were to ask me I'll do the Metallica ones. If you were to ask me like, well, which, if somebody's gateway getting into it, I'd say, well, Master of Puppets. Why would I choose Master of Puppets?
Right. That's
because 9 times out of 10, I guarantee they've probably heard that song because it was recently popular. In like 4 years ago, I might not have said Master of Puppets. You know what I mean? So,
maybe even Injustice for All second because it had
one
on it, or yeah.
So I'd prefer to go.
The other problem is too, though, if someone's really into metal, you might start with Kill 'Em All.
Well, and that's weird. And when that's why when you're recommending albums, like all these like rankings lists I look at, people justify their cause. They're like, I think this is the best album, or I think this is my favorite album because X, Y, and Z. Those rankings are never like, well, because exactly what you said. Well, if you like Depeche Mode, you'll like this album because of this. But if you're more a fan of Skinny Puppy, you might prefer this album because when you're doing a list, when you're like, if somebody came up to me and they're like, I want to get into Metallica, or I want to get into Slayer, or Cannibal Corpse, or whatever, where should I start? My first question is always going to be, well, what do you listen to now? Because if you tell me, well, I listen to pop music, I'm going to say start with Load and Reload. or start, so because I'm going to say those are the probably to the most general audience.
Reload.
They're the
Reload, but-
well, no, but even Reload, because
Reload
give me five, ooh, big. I mean, but because I guarantee they'll have heard Fuel, because even to this day, Fuel is a massive concert song for them.
Yeah, it is.
So, I'd say start with Load and Reload. But if somebody comes to me like, oh, and I know this sounds ridiculous to say this, I really like to get into Metallica. What do you listen to? I listen to thrash metal. Oh, well, then you're going to want to start with Kill 'Em All and work your way through their catalog.
They go see Municipal Waste in concert, and they're like, dude, this was awesome. Like, and then they hear, well, I mean, it's very possible that Metallica is not someone younger now that hears something is getting into thrash metal. Metallica might not even be where they go, because they might have read that Metallica isn't metal anymore. You know what I mean? Like, it's very possible that they read that Metallica is not even metal and they skip them. So, yeah, I mean, those are the kids who are like, well, you got to listen to Ride the Lightning. You got to listen to Kill 'Em All.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so we're going to go favorites. And that's cool. And again, I asked because with some of these, well, because I know for myself, there are plenty of bands where I'm like, I love this album. Most people don't. Or I don't like that album. Most people do. Well, again, I'll say Megadeth. Like, if someone said to me,
I get it. I mean, I totally get it. I mean, like, that's...
Well, I know you get it, but I'm saying, like, the answer is Countdown to Extinction or Rust in Peace, depending on if you think they want the catchy songs or you think they want the guitar playing.
Yeah, I get it. I mean...
And again, I realize that there are all those people out there, well, you got to go with the 80s stuff. I think a crowd today is probably going to be less into the 80s. I think the people, the Megadeth fans that are into the 80s stuff are Megadeth fans that are around when the 80s stuff came out. I'm just being honest. So, this is how I'm going to approach this.
Or they're the 24-year-old kids who still want to pretend like who want to pretend like they grew up in 1985.
Yeah. Who are like, oh, it's all been downhill since,
it's all been downhill since 20 years before I was born.
Anyways,
I'm just busting. By the way, guys, I'm just busting balls. If you're one of those, dudes, I'm just busting your balls.
So here's what I did. I was eating dinner, and I just threw out bands as I thought of them. There are possibly bands on here that are obvious ones. There are possibly bands on here that was a stupid one. I don't know. But I just picked 20. Why did I pick 20? Because I was just picking them and I got to like 16 and went, why don't I make it 20? And because I'm a nerd and I have one tattooed on my arm, I grabbed a D20. For those of you out there that aren't nerds, it is a D20 or 20-sided dice.
I have those.
Literally.
I have those from when I used to play Pokemon with my nephew. Yes, I used to play Pokemon. I was never...
Magic the Gathering players have these too.
Well, just to be clear, and I'm not like, because it's not that I'm afraid of somebody. I actually don't like Pokemon. He just like wanted to play the card game, and I was like, all right, you're a little kid. I mean, I'll learn how to play the card game with you.
Pokemon games are way cooler than Pokemon.
Yeah, the game, like, I always liked Pokemon Stadium for the Nintendo 64. I couldn't care, because you know what it was? It was a fighting game. It was a fighting game with turn-based combat. And I don't want to go down this road. I don't want to go down this road.
No, real quick. Have you ever drank too much and played Pokemon Snap for Nintendo 64?
No, I never liked that game.
When the whole game was just floating around and taking pictures, that game was so awesome. It was like the greatest drunk game of the late 90s. Anyway, so I'm going to roll a D20.
All right.
And whatever number I get, that is how this works. The way I will do it, if I roll number 6 and then I roll a 6 again, I will just go to the adjacent number, whatever. I'm just going to keep it consistent.
Fair enough.
Here we go. Number 18.
18.
This is an almost obvious one.
An almost honest one.
Might be might almost be ridiculously easy. I think this one's obnoxiously easy.
Okay.
I just picked this one because I don't know, I picked the band. So let's rank the original 4 albums by Armored Saint. Meaning, in order, that would be March of the Saint, Delirious Nomad, Raising Fear, and Symbol of Salvation. I actually think this is super easy, and I think you'll find this super easy, but I'm curious. So the first 4 out. By the way, I should clarify. I'm not doing any band's full discographies.
Yeah, that's too much.
I'm, for example,
we'd have to spend a whole episode. I know we'd have to spend a whole episode.
Right. I am doing Armored Saint up till Symbol of Salvation. I'm not doing anything after they broke up and got back together.
We're not counting the EP.
No. I'm doing the 4 major albums: March of the Saint, Delirious Nomad, Raising Fear, Symbol of Salvation.
Okay.
I think your number 1 is going to be easy. Your number 4 is going to be easy. It's going to be 2 and 3 are going to be your question. Go ahead.
All right. So I'm actually checking some. I was curious about something. Oh, I don't own their EP. Okay. It's in stock at the record store I like to go to, so I might have to do that. So first one's going to be Symbol of Salvation.
Are you talking about which EP are we talking about?
The Armored Saint, the one that came out in '83. It just had the black cover with the Armored Saint logo on it. I don't. Right. I thought I owned
that, and I'm also not counting Saints
live album. Yeah, I have that. That album's really good.
I'm just for the record, I'm aware these exist. I'm not counting them.
No, I know you. I'm not trying to call you out. I just wanted to make sure I was.
No. I'm explaining for the listeners. I'm just thinking they're 4 full lengths up until that point.
Number 1, Symbol of Salvation. I was lucky enough to see them play on the Symbol of Salvation tour when they did the tribute shows for the anniversary. I'm on the back cover of the live recording of that. My battle vest is actually my original one that I took apart since then. Is in the DVD because there's like scanning through the crowd and you can see like the camera person was like right behind me. So, but Symbol of Salvation, it's always been my favorite Armored Saint album. I really and truthfully think it's as close to a perfect album as you can get. If it's not a perfect album, and I'd really have to do that analysis, but I don't want to do that deep dive on it.
If there's a bad song on it, it's not on the copies that I've ever heard. Because that album is amazing.
Yeah, Symbol of Salvation is definitely number 1. I'm gonna try not to go deep dive on these.
No, but there's some you're gonna go deep dive on.
Yeah, but I don't want to do like a 30-minute like talking about one album when we're trying to do through these rankings. I want to try and keep it like brief. March of the Saints number 2, because I Delirious Nomad I know is a favorite of yours, but and it's not, again, none of these 4 albums in my opinion are bad albums. I always just March of the Saints always the one I listen to more so than either Delirious Nomad or Raising Fear. Then of course number 3 I'm going to put Delirious Nomad. Number 4 I'm going to put Raising Fear. It's actually funny. I got Raising Fear by accident. I ordered... What did I order? I can't remember what I ordered, but I ordered something, a record, and they sent me Raising Fear by mistake, and the guy was like, just keep it. So I was like, okay. It's like... Well,
I don't... Yeah.
I think or maybe it was... No, it wasn't March of the Saint that I ordered, because maybe it was. I don't remember. Either way, but he said, just keep it, and then he sent me the album I ordered 2. So but Raising Fear is like one of those things where it's like, it's not necessarily a bad album, it's just not a memorable one. So it kind of falls to the bottom of the list for me. So that's my Symbol of Salvation, March of the Saint, Delirious Nomad, and Raising Fear.
So I will, again, I designed these more for you to answer. There's a couple of these that I don't even have an opinion on. But for me, now, this is one of those where if someone were to ask me where to start with Armored Saint, the answer you gave is the way I would rank them. If someone said, I know John Bush from Anthrax, I didn't know he was in another band, what should I listen to? I would have given the order exactly how you said it. If we're listing my favorites, then number 1 is Delirious Nomad, number 2 is Symbol of Salvation, number 3 is March of the Saint, and number 4 is Raising Fear, because if I never listen to that one again, I'm fine with it. I don't think Raising Fear is a terrible album, but it's not a good one. I think the only problem with my list is that I hate that the March of the Saint record is behind other albums.
Well,
Delirious Nomad is my favorite. I had it on cassette a billion years ago. It was the first one I got. I got it on cassette. And I played that cassette until it didn't play anymore. I just love that album. Do I think it's their best one? No. I would put it exactly where you put it. I would put number 3 as their best album objectively. Symbol of Salvation is an untouchable album. March of the Saint, the song Can You Deliver alone on the first album.
Can you deliver?
Their entire career is worth it for that song. But Long Before I Die and The Laugh and Nervous Man and those songs on Delirious Nomad are just... I'm sorry, when I think of Armored Saint, that's where I go in my head. So that's why I picked Delirious Nomad. I know I'm the only one who would put him.
Wasn't Can You Deliver on our songs about ED? Can you deliver?
I think it was. We did an episode in season 1, like it was probably like episode like 30, where we did songs for erectile dysfunction. You know, oh man,
can you deliver? I'm broken. Don't know what you got till it's
I'm half
gone.
the man I used to be. That was Stone Temple Pilots because I'm half the man I used to be.
Don't know what you got.
There's a couple on here that are that I have no opinion on. So we're gonna see what I roll. Okay, so that was number 18.
Yeah.
Rolling again. Number 17. This is one more for me than you. I promise you, there's some that I have no opinion on. But because we talked about this band last week and you told me you owned all 4 of these.
Okay.
I would be curious your ranking of Accept's 4 mega records. That would be Breaker, Restless and Wild, Balls to the Wall, and Metal Heart. I don't even know if you have a super strong opinion of those from a ranking perspective. But because we talked about those 4 records last week, that's why it's on this list.
So we're starting at Breaker.
Yes, Breaker, because I figure before and after Breaker are not... I mean, those are the 4 records with their... Every song you know by Accept is on those 4 albums.
I think... So, yeah, I honestly don't have a very strong opinion on these. So my ranking...
I didn't think you did, so...
No, my ranking...
I told you there's one of these that... a couple of these that are bad questions, but...
It's not that I don't... You know, it's one of these things where, like, I like Accept from the standpoint of I like listening to them. I'm not, like, one of those people who, like, analyzes their records. And, but, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it this way. Balls to the Wall is my number 1. And I know that's cliche, but whatever. It's cliche to say balls to the wall.
Actually, it's not. But.
I'm going to say number 2 would probably be Restless and Wild. Number 3, Metal Heart. Number 4, Breaker.
Okay.
And that's a hard decision because honestly, like these albums to me live as a monolith, and these are actually the These are the 4 albums I own. Like these are the 4 albums I own by Accept. So it's not, you know, so it's yeah.
I mean, let's be fair. Their first 2 albums are fine. You know, their albums after these, it's like, again, there's nothing wrong with them. But unless you're a mega Accept fan, you're going to get those 4 albums, and then maybe you pick back up when Mark Tornillo joins. Because Blood of the Nations and Stalingrad are freaking amazing albums. Like, if you don't have Blood of the Nations and Stalingrad, you should get them. The ones after that, Blood of the Nations and Stalingrad are right up there as, you know, amazing Accept records. But the 4, I'm going to put it this way. When I saw Udo do his Dirk Schneider band, when all he did was play Accept songs, he didn't play any of his own music. Which is odd because he normally does, but he was like, dude, I've got the live album, Dirk Schneider, Back to the Roots, not counting the intro, has 24 tracks on it. You know what those 24 tracks are? Their first 4 albums.
Well, it's like Scorpions.
It's damn near every song from...
It's like Scorpions with Worldwide Live.
It's like... I mean... Starlight, Living for Tonight, Flash Rockin' Man. I mean, just go right
London
through it.
Leather Boys.
You Yeah, Midnight Mover, Breaker, Head Over Heels, Neon Nights, Princess of the Dawn.
And contrary to popular,
they're all.
Contrary to popular belief,
Losers and Winners is on it, man. They're all on there.
Contrary to popular belief, London Leather Boys is not about Vinny and his friends.
No, but
they could be.
It's their theme song. It's practically their theme song. So I will tell you that my problem is I totally agree with you. These are 4 albums. They're not perfect albums because there's a couple of weird tracks, but for the most part, 8 out of 10 songs on all 4 of these records are just, monster songs.
See, I view these 4 records like I view the Scorpions block, the Worldwide Live block. Love Drive, Animal Magnetism, Love at First Sting, Blackout, like those albums. It's not that each album isn't good. It's just I kind of view that all as almost one work, for lack of a better term.
No, but that's what I'm saying. I agree with you. I'm saying they're all really good, but it's a quadruple album. It's like a quadruple album. It's like, well, you know how the record labels will do that now? They'll be like the whatever years, and they'll just release 4 or 5 albums by a band. You could do that with Accept. Just release a box set that's just those 4 albums, and then if you want to make it 5, throw in, I don't know, what's the Kaizu Band? They just throw that in there, or something, or Hungry Years as a live album if you want. You could totally do that. My number 1's Restless and Wild. I mean, dude, Fast as a Shark, Restless and Wild, Neon Nights, Flash Rockin' Man, not to mention freaking Princess of the Dawn is on it. Might be the best song Accept ever wrote, other than Balls to the Wall. Balls to the Wall is your big anthem, but as far as like, Balls to the Wall also doesn't really, in a lot of ways, it sounds kind of different than other songs. Songs that sound like what I think of as classic Accept, I think Princess of the Dawn might be their best one.
Balls to the Wall reminds me of Surrender by Cheap Trick. And here's why.
Really?
Not musically at all. The reason Balls to the Wall reminds me of Surrender by Cheap Trick, and it reminds me of that song, I'll Stop the World and Melt With You by Modern English. Here's why. Everybody who hears Balls to the Wall thinks it's AC/DC. Everybody who hears Surrender by Cheap Trick thinks it's the Ramones. And everybody who hears I'll Stop the World and Melt With You by Modern English thinks it's The Cure. And those songs, once you are familiar with the bands, you think to yourself, how could anybody think this was AC/DC? How can anybody think this is the Ramones? How can anybody think this is The Cure? But actually, when you take a step back and you listen to the songs, you're like, all the elements are there, so it kind of makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's I've heard speaking of Cheap Trick, I've heard the Flame attributed to Meatloaf more than once.
I could see that. I could totally see that.
Yeah, no, the Cheap Trick is seriously, I can't tell you how many times I've had people think the Flame was Meatloaf. Again, it sounds like Cheap Trick. It doesn't sound like Meatloaf, but it's a completely logical assumption.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, none of those songs, when you're familiar with both bands, to me, like, I would never assume, Balls to the Wall is an AC/DC song. Does Udo sound a lot like Brian Johnson in that particular song? Yeah, I could see people, again, if you don't know Udo, you don't know Brian Johnson, and you're one of those people who heard Back in Black a couple times, I could say, that's probably the same guy. They sound similar. But when you know both bands, it kind of gets harder to make that, confusion or whatever.
You're also missing the biggest reason why people would think it's AC/DC. No other band names songs with the word balls in it that often.
That's true. AC/DC does have the balls.
I mean, no, seriously.
You're right.
AC/DC has many songs with the word balls in the title. Can you name one other band that has not jokingly, but has like legit songs with the word balls in the title? No.
AC/DC got Ball Breaker. She's got balls. Gotcha by the balls. What's the one I'm missing? Big balls. The Balls Saga, we like to call it. Ball Breaker.
I mean, while Big Balls, I realize is a joke, it's a super well-known song. I would argue the most well-known of the four to the average person.
My favorite is still Come on, love me for the money.
Well, sure. I'm all I'm getting at is though the simple fact that it's balls, dumb as it sounds,
AC/DC
adds to the whole. That is. So anyway, I would go Restless and Wild first. When you said Balls to the Wall is kind of cliche, I would say I'm not looking this up on Reddit because I don't care about what anybody on Reddit has to say about much of anything. I would argue that the classic fan, maybe later fans, but I would say the classic fans of Accept, Restless and Wild is the one they always talk about. Think of like Fast as a Shark. I mean, you've told that story before about like Charlie getting hired in Anthrax because he could play Fast as a Shark. Like that is the record that has all of those. I would say the classic Accept songs, Restless and Wild has the biggest bulk of them. The weird thing about Breaker is more hit or miss. Starlight, Breaker, Son of a Bitch, Burning. Those songs are amazing. There's a couple of weaker tracks on it. For that reason, I would probably say Restless and Wild number 1 pretty easily. I would say Balls to the Wall 2, and then Metal Heart and Breaker, I like them both. Breaker has Son of a Bitch, as long as you get the right one.
Which I haven't been able to do.
Metal Heart, I love the song. The 2-minute intro kills me. The only thing I don't like about the album Metal Heart is I hate saying it. Now, on a record, who cares? You can just move the needle. But thinking about back on CDs, man, we always hated when perhaps you'd better start from the beginning. Or Potter's Field by Anthrax. Like, I hate, on CDs, which, hey, Metal Heart came out in 85. They weren't thinking about CDs at the time. When White Zombie did that in the CD era, it was just annoying because fast forwarding on a CD was annoying. Point being, the long intro of Metal Heart is annoying, but the song is great. Midnight Mover's great. Screaming Too High to Get It Right. Also great. But like Breaker, there's some weaker songs on Metal Heart. Breaker and Metal Heart to me have some of the best songs, but also some of the weaker ones. Because of that, I would say Restless and Wild, because there's not a weak moment on it, is number 1. Balls to the Wall, number 2, because it's more of most of the record is really killer. And then I would probably go Breaker and then Metal Heart, only because Breaker has Starlight, Breaker, Son of a Bitch, Burning. It's got Burning. Like, love that song. Anyway. So that's my ranking. Again, you picked the answer that most people who like Accept would pick Balls to the Wall. I went with Restless and Wild, which I think is most of the like classic metal Accept fans would probably go with Restless and Wild. But again, that's just because that style of music is more in my wheelhouse. So anyway, all right, let's move on. Again, it's always funny how I pick the ones that are like if I roll a 19, it's just going to be funny because that's the other one that I think is kind of like a answer. Okay, let me shake it up real good. 13. Okay. You may have a lot of opinions on this. You may not. You might not have an opinion on these, but these are amazing records, and I know you like them. So let's rank the 4 albums by Van Hagar. I don't know if you have a huge opinion on 5150, OU 812, Foreign Lawful Carnal Knowledge, and Balance. But if you do, I'm very curious if you could rank. See, it's such a good record, though.
But compared to the other ones, So I'm going to be honest with you.
No.
In full disclosure, I actually am going to have
If
to
you
look.
don't have an opinion on these, I'll just skip it.
No. I do. But I'm going to have to look at the track listings to remind me what is on what.
No, yeah, me too.
Van Hagar is another one. And Van Hagar is another one of those bands where, again, it's the same thing. Those blocks of albums all blend together, except for Balance, all blend together for me. Like 5150. Once I have all of these albums. I don't have For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge on vinyl, but I do have the CD.
I love it. That's just because Sammy Hagar wanted the F word printed on the CD.
He liked to say the F word,
and then the record label didn't print it that way, and it kind of bummed him out.
It bummed him out.
It was totally Sammy Hagar, by the way. Go ahead.
So I'm gonna go. Let's see. I'm looking at. I have to remind myself what's on. Okay, here it is. Pretty easy ranking for me. Okay, 5150 first.
Okay.
5150, in my opinion, it's got the best. It's got Why Can't This Be Love, which. It's got Why Can't This Be Love, which also reminds me of OU812, How Do I Know When It's Love? Because those two songs, they don't sound anything alike, but they're interchangeable too. Because why it's got what it takes, so tell me why can't this be love? Versus How Do I Know When It's Love? So, but there's something else that this thing has. It's got Get Up, which is amazing. It's got Good Enough. It's got Dreams, which
it's a great record, man.
So Dreams, you're familiar with the Mandela effect, right?
Yep.
I swear to God, Dreams was used in either a trailer or a movie where, and I always thought and I don't think the dates even line up for this to be possible. This album came out, 5150 came out in 86. Let me look something up real quick. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Give me 1 second. I just want to see what year this movie came out. Okay, so listen. This album came out the same year as Iron Eagle. And for some reason, I swore to God that the song Dreams was either in Iron Eagle or in a trailer for Iron Eagle or something.
Have you watched the movie recently?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I've watched the movie many. I have the soundtrack. I have the soundtrack on vinyl because there's a Dio song on it I didn't have. And
I can tell you what it was probably.
It's got Hide in the Rainbow by Dio. But, and it's, I guess,
I can tell you what movie Dreams is in.
Which is it?
Shazam, the one that Sinbad was in.
Okay, yeah, that wasn't it. But for
no, that is the most Mandela effect movie of all time. The fact that everyone is convinced there was a movie called Shazam with Sinbad. What's up?
No, it was Kazam with Shaq.
Correct. The reason I said Shazam with Sinbad is that's the Mandela effect movie, because there never was a Shazam with
Shazam's
with
a
Sinbad,
DC
but
comic
for some reason
character.
everyone. Right. For some reason, it's the famous movie Mandela effect that never existed that for some reason everyone thinks did.
No, I know what you're talking about, but like
you mentioned a Mandela effect, that's why I went with that movie. Anyway, continue.
So but I missed the joke. The joke went over my head, because I wasn't.
It is a.
I thought you were being
the
serious.
Mandela effect movie.
I thought you were being serious
No.
at first, and then I had to think about what you were saying, and I'm like, wait, Kazam, because I thought you made like a slip when you were either way. But I swear to God, I remember like either the trailer or TV commercials or something where for Iron Eagle, you go higher, yeah, higher, and I swear to God, it's got to be a Mandela effect thing. It's totally got to be a Mandela effect thing because it's not on the soundtrack, it's not in the movie. I mean, it's quite possible, but there's another one too. I swear to God, The Crow, which you know is one of my favorite movies of all time, a super important movie to me. There is another song, and I can't think of the song right now, that I swear to God was in the TV commercials and trailers, but I've since seen all of those, and it totally wasn't. So I don't know what contribute to it.
It's also possible. Trailers are weird. It's like the Mighty Ducks 2 trailer had scenes in it that were never in the movie.
Yeah, no, I know, but
and I don't even know if there's trailers that exist to prove it.
But either way, so I always thought Dreams was in Iron Eagle. What the song on this? Okay, yeah. So either way, I'm gonna say number one is gonna totally be 5150. Number two is gonna be For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. It's got
because of Pound Cake.
Well, I was gonna say because of Crystal Pepsi.
Well, that too. Which is not a Mandela effect. That did exist.
That did exist. And
I tried it, and it was garbage.
I actually drank it 5 or 6 years ago. They re-released it, and I purposefully bought it. You know, it wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. But it was nowhere near as good
as Crystal Gravy.
Damn it! You interrupted me, and I was about to make that joke. Yeah. God damn you!
I hate my. Sorry,
I was literally about to say it wasn't as good as Crystal Gravy, and you stepped on my line, man.
You're standing on my dick, man.
You bastard. Stepping on my lines, man. This is why we can't do stand-up comedy together. This is why Who's on First wouldn't work. Just kidding. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Third base. What?
I used to have that entire routine memorized.
Who's on first? Top of the World, Pound Cake. I mean,
no, I did it I literally performed that on stage. I did the whole routine. Well, with someone else, but
I was going to say by yourself. That's pretty impressive.
No.
It's like it doesn't quite work as well by yourself. But, anyways, I mean, it's also got a song called Pleasure Dome on it, which is why I assume it's going to be your number one. OU812 is a great album. Like I mentioned, it's got Finish What You Started, which I actually really like that song. When It's Love, Cabo Wabo, I actually, I don't know if I like When It's Love. How do I know When It's Love When It's Love or the other one from 5150. I don't know which one I like better.
Why Can't This Be Love?
Yeah, why can't it's got what it takes? So tell me why can't this be love versus how do I know when it's love? Finish What You Started is a fun song because especially
the story behind it. Yeah,
I was gonna say actually maybe this one will be your favorite because of that. But anyways, so I'm gonna have to say OU812 is going to be number 3, and Balance. And I'm full disclosure, by the way. I'm not going to do full disclosure, by the way. I'm not too terribly familiar with Balance. I remember I listened to it once, and I was just kind of like, and I never listened to it again. So Balance for me has always been the kind of like, I just don't care album. Like, it was kind of when Van Hagar was falling apart. After what I think Gary Sharon came along after that with Van Halen 3.
Yep.
And, so to me, Balance has always just kind of been like Van Halen released another album. So.
No, that's not what they said. Hey, Van Halen, who else?
Wow, Van Halen, who else? So that's going to be it. It's going to be 5150, For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, OU812, and Balance.
So I'm going to say OU812 is my favorite, but let me tell you why. It's
because
the
of Finish What You Started.
Well, that is probably my favorite Van Hagar song.
Come on, baby.
Well, I actually just really like that song because it's a great song. But
I like the guitar riff.
OU812 to me is the most Sammy Hagar album, the least Van Halen album. What I mean by that is 5150 is very big. That's the big, like, stadium anthem songs. OU812 is just classic hard rock, And that's very not Van Halen. Van Halen's albums were, it was David Lee Roth. Think of like, to me, 5150 picks up where 1984 left off. I would argue I like 5150 better, but you know what I mean? 1984 was songs like Jump and Panama and these big songs, and 5150 is, again, Why Can't This Be Love? Those big songs. OU812 had songs like, Mine All Mine and When It's Love and Cabo Wabo. They're more, it's hard to call a Van Halen album stripped down. But it just is. And it to me, I don't mean it's more Sammy. I mean, feels more like a Sammy Hagar album in tone than it does a Van Halen album because it's just not big lights. So I just kind of like that. I just do. There's just something about it being, and maybe I'm the only one who feels this way. I just feel like it's more of a straightforward, just kind of, how do I better say it's a sleazy rock album? It is. Oh, you wait, 1-2, like where 5150 is your big anthems, and not to say that Oh You Wait 1-2 aren't anthems, because everything Sammy Hagar ever did was, but I don't know. Oh You Wait 1-2 to me is a sleazy rock album. I will then say number 2 is 5150 because it's 5150. And then I'll finish the same as you with Foreign Lawful Carnal Knowledge, which is an amazing album.
Well, no, I didn't finish.
I
didn't finish with that. I finished with Balance.
No, I know.
Oh, okay. You said I'll finish.
Then I'm finishing with Balance.
Okay, sorry. I thought.
No, I'm saying I'll finish the same way you did.
Okay.
By saying Foreign Lawful Carnal Knowledge, and then, to me, Balance is the album with Can't Stop Loving You on it. I love that song. Can't Stop Loving You. I love that song. I loved that song when it was on MTV. It's a great song. I agree with you that I don't remember the rest of the album, and that's sad because I've listened to it 100 times. I had it on CD. I still don't remember what it sounds like. Is that because it's not memorable? Maybe. But I don't really remember it. That's why I wasn't sure if you'd have like a strong opinion on these or not, but I know you like Van Hagar. I mean, but I am the only person who I know. Now, I'm not the only one who would ever say this. I don't think I'm that cool. But I upset people when I say this, that I love Van Halen and I love Van Hagar probably equally. You're probably the same way. I don't want to speak for you, but you're probably the same way where you like both of them, but for different reasons.
Yeah,
no. I like Van Halen and Van Hagar for different reasons.
For completely. And I
love them both.
I don't hate either one. A lot of people draw that line in the sand. You know, it's. I mean, you're always going to find that with bands. You're going to find that with Giano, Bruce Dickinson. You're going to find that Cliff Burton, Jason Newsted, Robert Trujillo. I mean, you're always going to find Bon Scott, Brian Johnson. You're always going to find those people who draw that line and say, oh no, afterwards. Now, I will say it is a little bit more of a stark difference with Van Halen because. If you listen to those early Van Halen albums and you listen to the Van Hagar albums, one is a rock band coming out of the 70s. One is a band that is really trying to write songs that are going to be on the radio. Look, bottom line is this. I understand that, and this is the heavy metal hangover, and I understand some people are probably sitting there being like, oh, I only like death metal. That's fine.
Cool.
But that's
There's
cool.
death metal on this list too.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that Van Halen, and the reason I brought that up was because I understand some people are like, why are you talking about Van Halen? They're a radio rock band. Yeah, they are. But at the same time, they're also one of the most influential bands in history. So again, it's
a generation of drummers were into Alex, and every guitar player since 1978. Every guitar player since 1978. Maybe not every drummer was into Alex Van Halen, but certainly an entire generation was. And every guitar player since 1978 was aware of Eddie Van Halen. There are just, it's like not being aware of Hendrix. You know what I mean? There's just, there's guitar players, there's musicians that transcend. He transcended rock music. He did guitar, Eddie Van Halen. You know what I mean? I mean, come on. He if you were to ask anybody in the 80s or 90s to name a guitar player, I would think anybody who wasn't a guitar player. Eddie Van Halen was the first one. I mean, literally, he was the guy. But here's what I was going to say. This is where I'm weird, but I know there's a reason for this. I like Van Halen, and I like Van Hagar equally for different reasons. But I like Sammy Hagar and David Lee Roth better than Van Halen or Van Hagar.
Oh, you mean the solo projects?
I do. I like, and I'll tell you why though. Because when I was a kid, David Lee Roth was solo.
Give me a bottle of anything and a glazed donut.
Well, but I grew up with David Lee Roth being solo. Like,
Yeah.
I think of David Lee Roth with, like, Eat 'Em and Smile more than I think of him in Van Halen, just because that's how I grew up. Now, even though Sammy Hagar was in Van Halen at the time, I grew up listening. My family were really into Sammy Hagar as a solo artist. So, like, listening to songs like I Can't Drive 55 or, you know, the song Heavy Metal or
There's only one way to rock.
I was blanking. Like, songs like There's Only One Way to Rock, I would argue I've listened to that almost as much as anything by Van Halen. It's not because, and dude, I love Van Halen. I'm not saying I don't. Sammy as a solo artist, he's my favorite of the four. You know, David Lee Roth as a solo artist, mainly because I don't know, man. The stuff he did with a solo artist was just awesome. And he was fun with Van Halen, but when 1984 came out and he was getting fun with Van Halen, it was also kind of, you know, it wasn't exactly a good thing. But I mean, dude, songs like Going Crazy and
You get some leg tonight for sure.
My favorite song he ever did is A Little Ain't Enough. Little Ain't Enough for Me. That Jason Becker played guitar on. That is, I mean, that's probably my favorite song he ever did. But dude, songs like Just Like Paradise. This must be just like living in paradise.
So I will agree with
another one of my favorite songs he ever did.
I will agree with you from one standpoint. There are certain songs like, you know, Yankee Rose, you know, Just a Gigolo. It's a fun song. You're right. Just Like Paradise. I would say, though, that overall, and look, you're talking to one of the biggest Steve Vai fans, like, in history, and he played on both of his solo albums. Like, not in history, but, you know, I love Steve Vai. Like, I love Steve Vai as a guitar player. Huge Steve Vai fan. He was
always your favorite shredder.
Yeah, he was always my favorite out of that group of, like, virtuoso shredder guitars, because I always liked how creative, either way. But
I was more of an Yngwie guy, but it played to my sensibility more.
Yeah, I mean, and Vai was one of those guys that actually, ironically, always followed Yngwie. You know, when he quit Steeler, Vai joined Alcatraz rather. When he quit Alcatraz, Vai joined Alcatraz. Then he joined I don't know if he ever joined Steeler.
Well, he had to follow Yngwie and Eddie Van Halen, which is kind of. Well, dude, don't forget too though. Greg Bissonette was playing drums on, and it was Greg Bissonette and Billy Sheehan.
Yeah, Billy Sheehan was also there.
It wasn't just Steve Vai.
It was a super.
I mean, Greg Bissonette, by the way, is the biggest goober. If you want to know what a goober is, go on YouTube and watch any video with Greg Bissonette. It's borderline uncomfortable, but borderline like you want to hang out with him.
But I also wanted to say though that, like, you know, so I will say though that those two albums that David Lee Roth put out, Skyscraper and Eat 'Em and Smile, and then, you know, I would say
A Little Ain't Enough as well, but
and then he did Crazy from the Heat, you know, which was that little like EP kind of thing he did. Little Ain't Enough. I don't even pay attention to that one. That one to me, it was like kind of after the fact. I always think of Skyscraper and Eat 'Em and Smile as his two main releases. Like A Little Ain't Enough was kind of like, I think that kind of came out after his heyday, so to speak.
It did, yeah. I mean, it's mainly known as the Jason Becker album. I mean,
I love Jason Becker, but like at the same time, again, he was following Steve Vai. Like I always think of his Steve Vai albums, but again, my point in all of this is that I still prefer the Van Halen albums. I still prefer I still prefer 1984. I still prefer Women and Children First. You know, Driver Down and Fair Warning, minus a song or two, I think are kind of, you know, they're okay. Van Halen 2 is awesome. Of course, the original is untouchable.
Did you say, are you into Women and Children First? People are split on that one. I love that album.
I do like that album.
It's a, you know, I am a fan of that album. I'm weirdly I don't know. Anyway, but
I like the song, you
what,
like the song, and I'm sure you. I love the song "Everybody Wants Some." What movie was that in? It was with John Cusack. Was it in Better? I might have been Better Off Dead, where he's like in the fast food restaurant and that plays, and he's like hallucinating like the hamburger or something running around the restaurant.
I think it is, yeah.
And the Cradle Will Rock is awesome. You know, I mean,
yeah, because we used to play it for a friend of ours, or dare I
everybody
say,
wants some.
Yes.
I love that song. You know why? I always associate that song with you. You know why? I always associate that song with you because I like the way the line runs up the stockings and they're like, no, leave them on, don't take them off. And then the end, look, I'll pay it for it. What the?
I guess. Let me say this, and then I want to move on to another one.
David Lee Roth is you. I just realized this.
Yeah, well, as a catalog of work, you know what I mean. Like as a pile of work, it's hard to beat Van Halen or Van Hagar. I mean, Van Hagar just wrote hit after hit after hit after hit.
Yeah, it was insane.
You know, they just did. And Van Halen did the same thing. And if it wasn't hit after hit, it was mega song after mega song. You know, I mean, it's hard to say. Like, was Jamie's Crying necessarily like a giant hit? I don't know. But come on, you know, there's just songs on those records that are just huge. The thing is for me, but let's go back to what I was saying earlier. I'm really I'm a major classic metal guy, but I'm also just, you know me, and like 70s hard rock. Sammy Hagar to me was just one of the best at it. Total bad. Come on, he named an album Standing Hampton.
Yes.
If you don't know what that means, he named an album a boner. You know what I mean? Like, he's awesome.
And not Mike Seaver's friend.
No. And with David Lee Roth, it was totally like tongue-in-cheek glam rock. They just play to my sensibilities in so many different ways.
Yeah, I get
it's
it.
really weird.
Give me a bottle of anything and a glazed donut.
All right, so let's roll. Let's roll said. I'm glad I did this with dice because
you are a big dice fan.
I am. Even though I don't think I've picked any good ones yet. Let's try the next one. Here we go. Oh, okay. Oh, I like this one.
Okay.
I do like this one. And interestingly enough, a few minutes ago, I mentioned how it's cool when a record label, they do it a lot now. They just put out a compilation of everything a band did when they were on a record label. And this is also, but this was inspired by another conversation we had last week. A lot of these are from conversations from last week.
Okay.
This was a conversation from last week, albeit I'm skipping the record that we talked about. I am going to go, because even though one would think this is a band that's more important to me, you like this band. So I am going to be cool and ask you, skipping the EP, the 4 albums by Rat. So that would be Out of the Cellar, Invasion of Your Privacy, Dancing Under Cover, and Reaching for the Sky. Because in my opinion, these are flawless records, and I'm pretty sure you like them cover to cover as well.
I do.
I can guess which one's in last place, but the other 3 are I'm also guessing you're going to have to look at track listings.
Yeah, no, and I am, because I look again. Rat is one of those bands.
It's a body of work. I agree.
Well, no, it's not only is it a body of work, you know, but if you're going to ask me like how I enjoy Rat, yes, I enjoy these albums. I own all of these albums on vinyl, some on cassette, but I'm a Rat and Roll guy when it comes to Rat. But you know, Dancing Undercover. You know, ever since we had that conversation about guys looking tough or looking awesome or badass or whatever by smoking, every time I see the cover of Dancing Undercover, I'm picturing Stephen Pierce being like, wait, I need to get a cigarette first.
I gotta be smoking.
I gotta be smoking. Yeah, I'm gonna look at track listings. I'm gonna cheat because, again, I love a lot of these albums. But you know what's actually gonna make this hard for me? It's not even going to be, It's not even going to be the albums. It's going to be separating the albums from the songs, because there are certain Rat songs that I absolutely love. Like, they are probably, if you were to ask me like my favorite glam metal songs, these songs would be included. Like Body Talk, Lay It Down, love those songs. Like, love them.
Yep.
Love
This
them.
is why this one's hard.
Yeah.
This is why this one's hard, because they're all stacked with great songs.
And then, of course, there's
And your favorite songs are probably...
What is all this?
Everybody's favorite songs are split among these records.
I Want a Woman, and that's the other thing too. Like, the reason why this is gonna be hard for me is like almost every single. I have a favorite song off of all the rest of these records, and to me, the rest of the records are good, but they're not my favorite song. So first, I'm gonna have to start off with Invasion of Your Privacy, and the reason why is because I love the songs. I'm literally going to have to look at this list and look at track listings and say, because this song is on this, because these songs are on this. Look,
I know.
I am not going to sit here and be like a poser and pretend like I'm the biggest Rat fan to ever walk the earth.
Nope.
So I'm going to have to go. I'm being forthcoming here, where I'm saying like I'm literally basing this on. Oh, I like that song. Oh, I like these songs. You are way bigger Rat fan than I am. Although I do like Rat.
I am, but no. I know I'm a bigger Rat fan than you, but this is why I picked this one. Even though I picked these designed for you, I picked this because I know this is not your favorite band. I know you like them, but I also know that they're a band where your favorite songs are not on one album. And I also think that at least the first three are relatively created equal.
Oh, agreed.
Motley Crue, for example, you have favorite songs on every album, but they also have a couple that are stinkers in comparison.
Oh, yeah.
They have two. Girls is a crap album minus a couple of songs, and Theater of Pain is a crap album
minus songs.
That's what I mean. Like, in this case, these are, I don't know. That's why I picked this, even though I just full disclosure, everybody listening, this is not one of, I think it's Rex's favorite band or his favorite albums. It's 4 really equal records, and I know there's songs on every one of them you like. That's why I picked this one. I also picked it because I didn't think you had an automatic answer for this.
Yeah, but Invasion of Your Privacy
is gonna be like,
Invasion of Your Privacy is going to be number 1. And ironically, I think the big one is going to be. I think the big one is. Wait, that can't be right. Oh, okay, that's why. I think number 2 is going to be Dancing Undercover, and this is where it's going to get dicey for me.
there are 2 songs on Reach for the Sky you love.
I know. Yeah, it's that. You know what? I'm gonna actually. Okay, gonna take that back. Invasion of Your Privacy, Reach for the Sky, Dancing Undercover, Out of the Cellar. Here's why. Invasion of Your Privacy. I'm sorry. The song Lay It Down. If you're not a glam metal fan, I don't care. Lay It Down is a heavy song.
Yep.
For a glam metal song. I also love the song You're in Love.
And if you are a guitar player and you try to pretend that Lay It Down is easy to play, you're lying.
Yeah.
You're lying. It's not. You are lying to yourself. Even if you say the main riff, you can play it, go ahead and try to play Robin Crosby's parts later. And I don't mean solos. I'm just throwing that out. Like, try to pretend that Lay It Down is easy to play and you're lying.
So that
Warren DeMartini would tell you that is not easy to play.
So, yeah, Invasion of Your Privacy is going to be number 1. The reason I say Reach for the Sky number 2, one of my favorite Rat songs is I Want a Woman.
Did you say Reach for the Sky is 2 or Dancing with...
Sorry, no, Invasion of Your Privacy, apologize. No, Reach for the Sky is number 2. Reach for the Sky is number 2, okay. Yeah. I switched, because originally I said Dancing Undercover, and I changed my mind. Reach for the Sky, sorry, we're not reaching. Reach for the Sky is number 2, because I Want a Woman... Love that song. I want a woman, not some little girl who had to grow up in daddy's big... I love that song. And then, of course, there's You and I, and we're going to bring this video up again. You used to have a recording off MTV of It Came from the 80s. And we always used to you and I always talked about how we used to hook into the stupidest stuff. Like, anybody else wouldn't even pay attention to it, but for some reason, you and I were like, that's awesome, or like, that's hilarious. There was this scene of Rat doing like an unplugged show, and they were singing Way Cool Jr. And you see Stephen Pearson, he's like, hey, what is all this talking going around? And ever since then, I've been obsessed with the song Way Cool Jr. So between I Want a Woman and Way Cool Jr., now again, the rest of the album is fun. It's listenable. It's a glam metal album. It's pretty, but those two are standout tracks to me. Then you're going to have Dancing Undercover.
Don't Bite the Hand That Feeds is awesome too.
It is, you're right. Dancing Undercover, my all-time favorite Rat song is on Dancing Undercover, and the only reason why Dancing Undercover didn't make it higher is because Body Talk is my all-time favorite Rat song, but all the other songs on all the other albums that I named before this, or you know, the songs that I cited before this, I like better than anything else on Dancing Undercover. So it's one of those battles where my favorite Rat song is on this album, but I like more other songs on another album. It's like I always talk about Ride the Lightning versus Master of Puppets. I like songs on Master of Puppets better than anything on Ride the Lightning, but as a body of work, I like Ride the Lightning better than Master of Puppets. So,
man, if you're going Dancing Undercover, though, you got to remember one good lover.
Yeah, but Body
one
Talk.
to another.
Body Talk. I hear your body talk. I love that song.
Oh, man.
And then Out of the Cellar, which is funny because a lot of people would be like, wait, it's got Round and Round on it. That's like their biggest song ever. You know what? I don't care. Like, Wanted Man's cool. You know, You're in Trouble's cool. Like, Round and Round, of course, is Round and Round. It's got Warren DeMartini.
I'm surprised She Wants Money is not your favorite because it just, you know.
Well, she does want money.
Reminds me of.
They all want money.
Reminds me of Money Talks, that's all.
Yeah, they all want money. But Round and Round, of course, it's got Warren DeMartini in the video breaking through the ceiling. And then when he realizes he didn't knock over the candlestick, he goes out of his way to use his guitar to knock. Again, another one of those stupid little things that, like, no one else would even notice. But I'm sitting there like, dude, he knocked over the candlestick with his guitar because he missed it. I don't know. Like, I don't know what it is about me. So that's my ranking. My ranking is Invasion of Your Privacy, Reach for the Sky, Dancing Undercover, Out of the Cellar.
So Invasion or Privacy is one of my all-time favorite albums by any band. Part of it is how much I love the album.
Part of it's the cover, right?
Lay It Down. What's that?
Part of it's the cover, right? With Marianne Gravatt.
Of course. But so again, any guitar player, and I do mean this, lay it down, and you know, Rex might go, oh, I can play the riff, and I guarantee you can. It's just one of those, have fun playing the whole song, and especially have fun playing, I believe it's the solo riff that Robin Crosby plays. There's this one, I can't think of the guy's name, but he's one of those guitar, it's not Uncle Ben. There's one of these guitar teachers on YouTube that likes to show you how to play whole songs. And I remember he's playing it, and he says something like, screw you, Robin, because there's just, you got to realize Robin Crosby was a big dude.
Oh, he's huge.
His nickname was King. By the way, Kerry King, the King V guitar is named after Robin Crosby, not Kerry King. But so he had these giant hands. So him playing that is not that crazy, but it's a workout on your left hand. It's a pain in the ass.
You know, it always pisses me off when a solo riff is that difficult, because when I covered I Am the Law, the first riff under the solo to I Am the Law is very, very hard to play, in my opinion. And I'm thinking
I am almost positive it's the solo riff, but
and I'm thinking to myself, like, no one's even hearing this. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
well,
but you don't want to play it wrong.
There was a guitar trend in the 80s. Well, there was a lot of guitar trends in the 80s. But of all the weird so you had Randy Rhoads, but even more so, I think, than Randy Rhoads. I mean, Randy Rhoads was a huge influence, but Eddie Van Halen and Yngwie Malmsteen were the two guys that made everybody paranoid. There is that story about when it was 1984 or 5. I think it was 1985 when Ronnie James Dio did that Your Stars video, and Yngwie's first solo record came out in 84, I think, and he had just done Hiroshima Mon Amour. I think he just did that live record with Alcatraz, No Parole for Rock and Roll. I think he just did that in 83. Why am I saying this? It's 1985. Dio's doing this thing, and a whole bunch of guitar players are all playing. Yngwie was new to the scene. His first album was only a year old, and he had only been in Alcatraz very briefly. There is accounts where every single guitar player there, and it's a who's who of guitar players, they were scared crapless of being in the same room with Yngwie because he intimidated every single one of them because he was better than they were in a style none of them could do. Now, it doesn't take very long for other people to like learn your style, but at the time it was a huge deal. So there was things that guitar players did. One of the weird things that happened in the 80s that I don't think has really happened since was the obsession with the most gigantic stretch you could play on a fretboard.
Yeah, I always used to.
No,
laugh
I mean, I'm
about
serious.
That. No, I know. I remember I had a whole collection of 80s guitar magazines that my dad gave me, and every single picture of every guitar player, he'd be standing there and he would just stretch as far as he could, and that was the pose he did in the guitar magazine. It wasn't high in the neck doing a bend with the like ow face. It was literally, you would just stretch your fingers as wide as they would go, and for no particular reason, and just stand there with like a look on your face.
Well, and see that's one of the problems with Lay It Down is it's not the biggest stretch in the world, but it's a big one, and your pinky does all the work. It's just kind of it's a pain in the ass to play, but I love the guitar tone on that record. But not just Lay It Down. I mean, Closer to My Heart is great. What You Give Is What You Get. Dangerous But Worth the Risk. I love that song. I would go Invasion of Your Privacy 1, Dancing Undercover 2. Dancing Undercover not only has dance, but has One Good Lover, Slip of the Lip, Looking for Love. Love that album. Now, I am going to go Out of the Cellar next, and then I'll be Reach for the Sky last. Not because I don't like Reach for the Sky. I will say this, though. I'm aware that Round and Round is their famous song. I'm aware they have a career because of Round and Round. It was a huge hit recently. A couple years ago, it was a big hit again because of a commercial.
Oh, yeah, the rat commercial, yeah. Our house has rats, record, yeah.
I will go on record and say it wouldn't make my top 10 favorite Rat songs.
No.
Probably never would have. And let me tell you why.
It might make my top 10, not my top 5.
There's a difference between a song that has it has the perfect hook. If someone's never heard Rat before, Round and Round's the song you give them because they're probably going to like it. It was a huge hit for a reason. That being said, as far as Rat goes, they have a ton of better songs from the perspective of they have a ton of songs that are just way better Rat songs. Round and Round, though, come on, it's their lots of bands have that one hit when it's like everybody knows it, everybody loves it. But if you really dive in, well, I mean, come on, I said this about Balls to the Wall a little bit ago. Everybody that I've ever known that likes hard rock or metal at all likes that song. That being said, Accept's got a billion better songs, but they don't have any song better that would, you know what I mean? They don't have any song that would make them huge more than that. That being said, though, Out of the Cellar, I love Wanted Man, but my favorite song on the album is probably Lack of Communication. Back for More is great. She Wants Money. And I don't know. I do really like the whole album. I actually like all 4 of these albums pretty much start to finish. Reach for the Sky, I Want a Woman's great, but Don't Bite the Hand That Feeds You is great. But I would say Reach for the Sky is the only one of the 4 that have a few forgettable tracks on it. I could off the top of my head probably sing any song on the other 3. I say first 3. I realize I'm not counting the EP. I could probably sing off the top of my head every song on Out of the Cellar and Invasion of Privacy, and probably 7 or 8 out of 10 on just Dancing Undercover off the top of my head. There's probably 1 or 2 that I have to remember what they, like if you started playing, I'm going to remember what they were. Reach for the Sky, there's maybe 4 songs on there that I think of all the time. So my list isn't, well, it is a lot different than yours, actually. You went Invasion or Privacy, Reach for the Sky, Dancing Undercover, Out of the Cellar. So I just switched Dancing Undercover and Reach for the Sky. So I would go Invasion or Privacy, Dancing Undercover, mainly for the smoking, Reach for the Sky, and then Out of the Cellar.
Mainly for the smoking.
We've got time for a couple more. These aren't taking all that long. All right.
I'm trying to push them through.
Yeah, I know. Number 10. Oh, okay. You might rattle this off really quickly. Mm-hmm. But you might not.
Okay.
So I am going, and I will leave it up to you as to whether or not you want to include something.
Okay.
I didn't, but if you want to, you're welcome to. 70s Judas Priest. So we've got Sad Wings of Destiny, Sin After Sin, Hellbent for Leather, Stained Class. If you want to put Rock and Rolla in there, you can. I kind of separate it because it kind of doesn't fit.
Rock and Roll is going to be the bottom. Rock and Roll is going to be in the bottom regardless. So let's just clip it.
That's what I figured, which is why I just kind of clipped it. So Sad Wings, Sin After Sin, Stained Class, Hellbent for Leather.
What about
this might be super easy for you.
Okay, Hellbent for Leather.
Hellbent for Leather and Killing Machine are the same album.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking at their discography and I was like, what about? Oh yeah, that's Hellbent for Leather. I had to think about it. I'm looking at this from the standpoint of so I can remind myself I don't forget something. All right, so we got Sad Wings of Destiny, Sin After Sin, Stained Class, Killing Machine, or Hellbent for Leather. First is going to be cliche Stained Class.
It's hard not to.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the song Exciter alone. I mean, that does it. Better than you, better than you, better than me. Beyond the Realms of Death, freaking awesome. I have to remind myself what's on Hellbent.
Title track too.
Yeah, but I mean, Green Man Alicia. Okay, I'm curious now. Green Man Alicia. I'm curious. I know that's one of your favorite. I know it's not their song, but I know it's. I know it's a favorite
song. It's one of my favorite things they've ever done.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So I'm curious to see how you're going to rank that. I gotta remind myself here. I'm looking at the track.
The problem with this list is there's bangers on all of them.
No, I know.
You almost have to rank which bangers are your favorite.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, all right, here's how it's gonna go: Stained Class, Sad Wings of Destiny, Killing Machines, and Sin After Sin.
Mine's exactly the same. The problem is Sin After Sin has Dissident Aggressor on it. And that is, well, the problem with that record, I don't mean it's a problem. I mean, what makes it hard to not rank it higher is because, okay, I'm a drummer. Simon Phillips played drums on this record. He's not a guy who would ever be in Judas Priest. He was a studio drummer, but he's a freaking monster studio drummer. He is well known for the drums in Dissident Aggressor. So as a drummer, there's that part of he played in Toto once Jeff Porcaro died. That's how good Simon Phillips is. You know what I mean? When you replace Jeff Porcaro in Toto, you're that guy. But so it's hard for me to not pick that one higher. But I'm gonna. Oh, dude, he played on After the War with Gary Moore. God, I love that album. Sorry, I was just looking at other stuff he did. After the War by Gary Moore is a freaking amazing album. If you've never heard it, I know you probably have, but anybody who's not heard After the War by Gary Moore, play the damn record. It's amazing.
Play the damn thing, Milo.
No, hey, Gary Moore is awesome, and as great of a guitar player he is, he's almost a better singer than guitar player, if that makes any sense. But he, After the War is great. By the way, I always thought it was interesting that Gary Moore, when Ozzy hired Randy Rhoads, Gary Moore is who he wanted. I don't know if you ever heard that guy.
Yeah,
Gary Moore is who Ozzy wanted, and Dana Strum said Gary Moore is an amazing guitar player, just not for you. Anyway, I will agree. Stained Class. Look, you know what? Can I ask you this?
Sure.
I didn't include British Steel because it's in the 80s, but would you between Stained Class and British Steel? I'm just curious. I mean, I don't mean to extend the ranking, but out of those,
I would have put British Steel over Stained Class.
Would you? Okay, yeah. I mean,
Living After Midnight, Breaking the Law, Metal Gods, Grinder, Rapid Fire. I mean,
well, that's Vinny's
it's just
favorite.
too freaking stacked. Well, no, Vinny doesn't like Grinder. He uses Grinder.
He uses, yeah. You don't have to be old to be wise is a great song too.
No, I mean,
I would probably go.
It's
I would
not
probably
fair.
Go Stained Class, but
see, I don't know, like Rapid Fire, Grinder, Metal Gods.
Actually,
breaking.
By the way,
breaking the law. Yeah.
Might go as far as to say that was 6 Feet Under's best cover.
Grinder. I think their best cover was Blackout.
Yeah, I mean it's cool. The Grinder cover is on the what is it? Alive and Undead. Is that what that? It's that EP they put out that has the one about the wolf. I had that on CD. It came out. It's I don't remember if it was after. I gotta look. It was either after Haunted. It was after Haunted, before Warpath. It had they did a cover of Judas Priest's Grinder on it, and it has live tracks like Lycanthropy, where he goes, "This is the one about the wolf," and Human Target. Anyway, it's a cool record.
Yeah,
I might go Stained Class just because I'm kind of attached to that record.
I like Stained Class and all, but
this is one of those. Are you asking my favorite? Or are you asking what I would tell someone else to listen to?
I'm going favorite.
I mean,
it's got to be favorite. I mean,
yeah, if it's favorites, it's Stained Class, just because I'm, kind of obsessed with the title track and the song "Exciter" and "Beyond the Realms of Death."
For me, like the side A of British Steel is just, it's like you always say, the crane kick. Even United's cool. Like, and then you got Living After Midnight on side B, and the rest of side B is great.
And you don't have to be able to be wise. It's a great song too.
That's what I'm saying. Like, side B is great. Like Breaking the Law, Rapid Fire, Metal Gods, Grinder, United. Like, I love Stained Class, and again, it's another one of those situations. I probably like the song Exciter better than anything, including Breaking the Law and Living After. I probably like it better than anything on British Steel. It's just like. But British Steel is just so freaking stacked. You know what I mean?
British Steel is just British. And by the way, I will say this as well. The only reason Hellbent for Leather or Killing Machine, whatever you want to call it, did not rank higher, despite the fact that the Green Manalishi with the 2-prong crown is on it, it's because, and I don't like doing this, but let's be fair, I like the Green Manalishi because of Unleashed in the East.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even... I forget it's on the freaking album. And I hate to say that, but... Well, I will add to that. On Sin After Sin, Diamonds and Rust, I think of that as a live song on Unleashed in the East. Like, to me, Unleashed in the East is one of those, like, all-time top 10 greatest live albums ever. But Green Manalishi to me it's a live song, man. I'm not saying it's a bad album track, because it's not. But that song was just, you know what I mean? There's just songs that are meant to be live more in an album. That's the only reason Hellbent or Killing Machine is not as high up. That's all. I do, by the way, I'm a big fan of Sad Wings of Destiny. Because the first 3 tracks on Sad Wings of Destiny, Victim of Changes, The Ripper, and Dreamer Deceiver, I mean, dude. It's amazing. All right, let's keep going. We have time for 1 or 2 more, I think.
Let's do it.
I'm the problem, not you. Not you. Okay. Man, I am skipping we have skipped all the ones that are like, I don't have an opinion. These are just for you. This is another one that is, I have a lot of opinions on. And I'm telling you, there's like 3 or 4 here that I wouldn't have anything to say. But blame the dice. Okay, this one, we are going to go, and I think I know how you would rank this.
Okay.
But I'm not entirely sure. It is the Bruce Dickinson Iron Maiden albums from the 80s. Just those ones. So, okay. Number of the Beast, Peace of Mind, Power Slave, Somewhere in Time, Seventh Son. And again, I know that I blame the damn dice for picking the ones that are more for me, because there's some on here I don't even have an opinion on, and I don't know why we're not getting to those ones. But blame the dice.
All right. This is.
I put this one on here because I figured you could relatively easily answer it. Also, not being overly married to any of these.
Yeah, I mean, here's it's actually pretty. Seventh Son of the Seventh Son. Oh, you know what? That's going to be a wild card. All right. I don't know if I'm going to catch flack for this, but here's how it's going to go, okay?
Yeah.
Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, Number of the Beast. These two are hard. I think it's going to come down to Power Slave, Somewhere in Time, and Peace of Mind.
Okay, so part of this is really easy for me. Seventh Son 1, Somewhere in Time 2, Power Slave 3. Just go backwards in order. My problem is there are songs on Peace of Mind I like better than anything on Number of the Beast.
Same thing, yeah.
Peace of Mind has garbage on it. Number of the Beast has no garbage on it.
Not a single bit. Not a single. There is not a single ounce of fat.
Not remotely a single bit.
There is not a single ounce of fat on Number of the Beast. Gangland.
The problem is Flight of Icarus, Die With Your Boots On. I mean, forget about just the Trooper, but I get it. That's a big song. But for me, like Revelations, Flight of Icarus, Die With Your Boots On, those are... I like those probably better than anything on Number of the Beast. But there are... I know you like one of them, but even if you like...
Still Life.
One of the last four songs... Even if you like Still Life, I don't think you're going to argue that it's... You know... You could put it next to Number of the Beast. I don't think you're going to go that.
No, I mean, I like Still Life from the standpoint of it's a reason to defend side B aside from the Trooper. Still Life, I always love it. To give you peace of mind. I always love, for some reason, Nightmares. I always love the chorus of that song.
No, I do like. I actually like the chorus to that song.
Quest for Fire and
the chorus to that song is the only saving grace. I was going to say. The chorus to that song is the only saving grace of the last four songs in the album.
The last four, you're right. Yeah, okay. I thought you said
I hate being that guy.
You're that guy.
Because it sounds like I'm just saying this. But my favorite song on Number of the Beast is actually 22 Acacia Avenue.
You know...
Not because of what it's about. It's just my favorite song on the record.
Charlotte the Harlot.
Which I also, by the way, is... Charlotte the Harlot is also my favorite. No, it's not. It's my second. Remember Tomorrow is my favorite song on the first Iron Maiden album, but Charlotte the Harlot's like the second. But dude, they're Adrian Smith songs. That's why. I do. I love 22 Occasion Avenue.
So
that song is...
If you're talking Number of the Beast...
God, it's so good.
If you're talking Number of the Beast, I'm required by law to say that Run to the Hills is my favorite song off Number of the Beast. I'm required by law to say that.
And see, it's the one I could do without.
Well, see, I'm required.
The only song on that record I could do without.
Look, what I never understood about Number of the Beast. It's a British band singing about Americans going after Native Americans. I was always like, what stake do they have in this? But okay, whatever.
They can sit back and laugh at us.
I guess. Laugh.
Drink their tea.
Laugh at my people being murdered. No. Anyway,
Well, it is kind of funny. It's not. Don't jump on me.
Wow.
Don't jump on me for that one, folks.
Wow. Okay, look, go after Duff. Don't go after the show. Just remember, I'm cool, man. Actually, I think...
Are you cool, man?
Are you cool, man? I think my favorite song off of Number of the Beast is probably Invaders. I don't know. There's something about it's like Invaders. Oh, you're right. My
favorite song, not the
You're right. You are right. I forgot about The Prisoner. You're right.
I think back to the 90s, like in my memory, The Prisoner was like the first Iron Maiden song that you were like obsessed with as far as Iron Maiden songs go.
And I like the TV
I always
show,
just
too.
remember that being your song. Yeah. Well, I will say this: seeing that live is freaking life changing.
Not a free man. No, I'm not. Yeah, I always love that song. Like, and I like the TV show too. And it's fine. Who we want information. I remember I actually watched the whole TV show because of that song. You're right. You're right. You're right. You're 100% right. You've corrected me. I forgot about The Prisoner. I completely glossed over that. Prisoner is my favorite song on Number of the Beast.
By the way, and with Power Slave, what makes me like Power Slave so much? Well, first of all, Aces High and 2 Minutes to Midnight are just huge. But
for me, it's the title track.
It's actually the title track is the best song on that record.
We're going in the same direction.
I mean, dude, Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner is, holy crap, right?
They played the title track when they toured with Ghost. I remember seeing that. I was so excited.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me why I have to be a power slave. I love that.
The first time I saw them with Bruce Dickinson, which you weren't at that show, it was the year after we went together. I remember them playing it, and it was awesome. I mean, yes, it's got a couple of weaker songs in the middle. I don't want to say weaker, but it's got a couple of more forgettable songs, but again, you can't.
No one's standing in the crowd saying, "Play Flash of the Blade."
You'd be surprised.
Yeah, no. And when I say no one, I mean there's bound to be someone. I'm talking about your average person.
But let me say this though. So my favorite one is Seventh Son of a Seventh Son with you. I mean, come on, dude. That record is. It's
cranky.
It's on another level.
Untouchable. But my favorite Iron, and by the way, my all-time favorite Iron Maiden song is on that album, and that's "The Evil That Men Do."
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Clairvoyant, but I love that album. Though that being said, Somewhere in Time, this is weird. Track for track, I like Somewhere in Time better. As an album, I like Seventh Son of a Seventh Son better. Somewhere in Time, I mean, the first, Caught Somewhere in Time,
that song's amazing.
Wasted Years, 100% Adrian Smith song. That's why you can tell songs Adrian Smith wrote, and Wasted Years is one. Sea of Madness, Heaven Can Wait. I don't care how few people give it the credit it's due, but The Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner kicks ass. Stranger in a Strange Land. I mean, dude, Somewhere in Time is so good. It's so good. I like those two albums so much more than anything else they did in the 80s. It's not even funny. And that's coming from someone who loves their other albums. Like, I'm pretty obsessed with Iron Maiden, and I am pretty obsessed with most of the songs on all of those albums, but they hit Somewhere in Time and Seventh Son, and I'm just like, whoa, it's kind of amazing. So we differed a little bit.
Picked stop. I can only get so erect.
I know. All right, let's do. Let me see if I can get one that's more for you. Hold on. Ooh. Oh, okay. Well, this is entirely for you because I have very little opinion on it.
Oh, okay.
Well, I have an opinion, but no one cares about my opinion on this one. All right. The 80s Slayer, Show No Mercy, Haunting the Chapel, Hell Awaits, Rain and Blood, South of Heaven. Now, I'm aware Haunting the Chapel is an EP. If you want to kick it out, do it. But I think it's to me, it's an EP, but it's also an EP with like songs on it that are staple songs. So if you can knock Haunting the Chapel out if you want.
No,
because
I
it's not
won't.
a full-length album. But the 80s albums by Slayer, I'm curious.
So actually, it's funny. I just listened to Hell Awaits last night, and I hadn't listened to it in a long time. And it was the copy I bought. It's funny. I just went to a record show, and I just looked around, and they had a copy of Hell Awaits, and it was like insane money. And I remember I had a copy of Hell Awaits. I bought it in like the 90s because it was like my favorite Slayer album at the time, and I bought it for like $5. And it's just insane how these like records have kind of gone the other way. I mean, I know you did the same thing. I think you got Injustice for All for like nothing, and now it would be like $100 record. You know what I mean? But anyway, I just listened to Hell Awaits and I forgot how much I liked that album. Oh, you know what? I tell you what, I didn't forget how much I liked that album. Hell Awaits I put into that category of albums I never listened to because I know them. We were kind of talking about that earlier in the show, where, like you said, Back in Black. You never listen to Back in Black. Why? Because you've listened to it enough. Again, when I say enough, it's not that if You Shook Me All Night Long came on Sirius, you're going to be like, oh my God, get this off. You're going to be like, okay, well, you know, but you're also not going to walk over to your record shelf and pull Back in Black off the shelf. That's how Hell Awaits is for me. I loved Hell Awaits. I always loved that album. It's always been my favorite Slayer album, so that's going to be number one, no questions asked.
Hell Awaits is?
Yes.
Yeah, it's mine too. I'm not. I mean, it's my favorite. The rest of them, I don't really care how to rank them because I'm not a huge fan. But Hell Awaits is my favorite.
So
a lot. This
is where it gets a little difficult because if you're going to include Haunting the Chapel is going to be number 2. Chemical Warfare.
Like you can include it if you want to.
So
if you don't want to,
where it gets difficult is Haunting the Chapel is weird. And I say Haunting the Chapel is weird because the original release had Chemical Warfare, Captor of Sin, Haunting the Chapel. Haunting the Chapel is actually the song that got me into Slayer. I will never forget. My friend, before I knew you, this was in middle school. My friend, he had a cousin who loved heavy metal. He gave him like all the Pantera albums, all the like Slayer albums, and he would show them to me, and I'd be like, oh, this is great. And Haunting the Chapel, he was like, dude, check this song out. And he put on Haunting the Chapel. And as soon as I heard the I was like, whoa, like, this is it. This is the band, man. Since I've become more of an Anthrax fan, but originally, you know, as 14, 15-year-old me, I'm like, whoa. And I had known Megadeth before this. Yes, I've talked about that. I knew Megadeth. But Slayer, I'll say this about Slayer. Slayer was the big four. When people talk about the big four and they try to insert, oh, Anthrax doesn't belong in there because of this, and oh, this band doesn't belong there because of that. I like this band better. Testament. Oh, Overkill. Oh,
those were the 4 biggest bands, regardless of what anybody else has to say about.
But I will also say this about those 4 bands: every single one of them was distinct. The closest 2 were obviously Metallica and Megadeth. Why? Because the guy who's in charge of Megadeth, Dave Mustaine, wrote a lot of the early Metallica songs, as he will tell you, over again.
I started watching that big long interview with Dave Mustaine. I got about 10 minutes into it, quit watching it. But right at the beginning, the guy said he's introducing Dave Mustaine. He's like, Dave Mustaine, started Metallica, blah blah blah, and he goes, man, you have sold 50 million albums with Megadeth, and he went, you also have to count the fact that I've sold 50 million albums with Metallica. So really, I've sold 100 million albums.
He just can't drop it. He just can't give it up.
That is a weird way to say that.
But anyways, going back to Slayer, the reason I brought that up, though, is because every single one of those bands had a distinct sound. There was, again, Megadeth and Metallica at the time. And later on, I will say later on, there was no confusing those bands.
Nope.
Like, you could say, put Killing Is My Business next to Kill 'Em All, and you could say, okay, I could see how maybe vocals minus the vocals. Musically, you could maybe say, oh, well, okay.
The first Slayer and the first Anthrax are really not all that different if you take the vocals out, too.
I don't know. Slayer always had that kind of... They had a different tone, and it came a lot from Hanneman, obviously Hanneman.
Well, no. I mean, I realize that. I just mean I don't mean to say this I don't know how to better say, to an uneducated ear.
Yeah, I mean,
you would never confuse these 4 bands.
I'm talking about
shortly thereafter.
Let's move on to say you put Ride the Lightning, Peace Cells, Hell Awaits, and Spreading the Disease to get. You will not
than the first albums.
Right.
Yeah.
And you will not confuse. And I'm having brain farts. I'll blame the whiskey. You will not confuse those. So
Nope.
Point being is that, like, the reason I wanted not Hellowaits. The reason I wanted Haunting the Chapel included in here is because, to me, Haunting the Chapel, I should put Haunting the Chapel as number 1. I'm gonna put it as number 2, and here's why. Haunting the Chapel for me is probably, if you were to say the most important Slayer album to me, it probably is Haunting the Chapel, because that's the album that hooked me. That's the album that made me say, I need to find the rest of this. Hell Awaits didn't do it. Now, I will say this about Hell Awaits. The song Hell Awaits, so I'm going to go on a little bit of a diatribe here. You owe me that.
I've done that enough tonight.
I was going to say, you owe me that. So, Hell Awaits, my friend showed it to me. I liked it. It was cool. And, at the time, I'm, like, really into industrial music. So, I kind of, like, oh, it's Slayer. I like that song, Hell Awaits. I'm going to, I'll have to get that sometime. I'm listening to Nine Inch Nails. I'm listening to Ministry. That kind of, listening to Misery Loves Company. That kind of stuff. I had, I like Megadeth, I like Pantera, stuff like that. But, at the time, like, again, I'm 13, 14 years old. I'm kind of like defining, like, I'm still finding stuff. Black Sabbath, I like Black Sabbath. And again, as we beat the deadest horse in the lot, we didn't have Spotify and Apple Music for me to say, oh, I'm going to go listen to every Slayer album today because it's all sitting right here. You had to go out and buy albums. So, I'll never forget, like, I liked Haunting the Chapel, and me and a friend of mine went out with, we drove around with a friend of his, he worked with him or whatever. He had this huge system in his car, like one of those, like, thudding bass systems, but he was into all kinds of music. So he was like, hey, do you guys like Slayer? And I was like, oh yeah, I like Slayer. He put on Decade of Aggression, and the first track off Decade of Aggression is Hell Awaits. Ever since I heard, and I can trace it back to that moment, it was our freshman year of high school. Ever since I heard Hell Awaits on that system, just that Dave Lombardo's dun 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 dun, that 4/4, he's playing a 4/4 the entire song. I'm sitting in the back seat, and the bass, the subwoofers are right behind me. It was like being at the concert. Ever since I heard Hell Awaits in that manner, it's been like the song for me. So, yes, Haunting the Chapel made me say, hey, Slayer's a pretty good band. Hell Awaits is the song off Decade of Aggression that made me say, I need to find everything I can by this band tomorrow. So, again, and my friends always tried to, my friends, everybody around me was into Metallica. Everybody around me was into Metallica. You were even super into Metallica. Now that's not to say you didn't like the rest of the bands, but you were like, you worshipped Lars Ulrich. And before I was into Metallica and Anthrax more than the other two. Right. And before you take a dump on Duff,
and Anthrax because of Joey. I liked singers.
Before you take a dump on Duff for worshiping Lars Ulrich, everybody did. It's the same thing as saying I worshipped Ace Frehley in the 70s. Well, is Ace Frehley a spectacular?
Lars actually used to play his own music.
Well, but I'm saying in fairness, and I just saw this criticism. Somebody said, how can you like Kiss? And I'm not going to get on a tangent on this, but I'm like, well, in the 70s, everybody liked Kiss. And lots, especially kids. Like the number of people who picked up an instrument because of Kiss is immeasurable. And the same thing with Lars Ulrich. If you were a drummer in the late 80s, early 90s, even into mid 90s, you were like, this is before the internet decided Lars Ulrich sucked. Is Lars Ulrich a spectacular drummer? We've kind of decided no. But you know what? Is he an influential drummer? I don't think anybody can argue that he's not.
Well, and he's exciting to watch. And he wrote some of the greatest metal drum parts. And he used to actually play the songs.
Yeah, he's got a lazy.
We all know that Lars is... But, dude, Lars is also... He was born in 63. He's not... 62. He's also not young. He's not young.
I mean...
James Hetfield cheats their music.
Oh, I was just about to say, Hetfield cheats.
Hey, did I know that Lars had to piece together their songs in the studio. How the hell would I have known that back then? All I knew was he sounded great on the records, and every video I saw him playing live looked awesome. That freaking white Tama Superstar drum set with the black hardware, that is still, to this day, my favorite looking drum set of all time, and nothing will ever change that.
Agreed.
Is the coolest drum set ever made.
That's what I mean. Like, when you're a teenager, you're looking at performing, and I always joke around with you that you are Lars. I even bought you a Lars pop.
I still watch the Metallica, the Black Album era videos, and I love them as much now as I did then. I just fast forward when they play Enter Sandman.
Well, I mean, but again, like I always joke around with you that you are Lars, like personality wise, even because you were the guy who was like doing the interviews, and you're like, yeah, so like I played this part in the drums, and it was really cool, and I was always the James where I was like, yeah, that was neat when I did that. That was pretty cool. Anyways, going back to what you asked me to rank the Slayer albums. I don't want to go off of that. We already went off of the tangent. Anyways,
because I do have one more.
Yeah,
that I don't think you'll talk a lot about, but I have one more fun one, and I'm not rolling. I just want to do it.
All right, so we're just gonna. So Hell Awaits number 1, Haunting the Chapel number 2. I'm gonna go with, and again, probably my favorite, or at least top 3 favorite Slayer song is on South of Heaven. And I saw them play it live when I saw the Big Four at Yankee Stadium. And literally, this is before I knew it was about setlist.fm. So when they started playing it, I went nuts. But I'm going to say, man, this is tough. I can't tell if I'm going to rank Rain and Blood number 3 because I want to rank Rain and Blood number 3, or because I feel like I need to rank Rain and Blood number 3. It's one of those things where I don't have a problem with it, but I can't tell if I'm doing it from obligation. I'm going to say Rain and Blood number 3, South of Heaven number 4, Show No Mercy number 5. And here's why that's hard for me. I freaking love Black Magic. I love Die by the Sword. I love The Antichrist. I love Evil Has No Boundaries is probably top 10 Slayer song for me. At least if you're talking 80s.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm with you, man.
But the thing about Show No Mercy for me is just Slayer was one of those bands that I felt like they kept getting better. Now I have preferences in their sound, like Hell Awaits. If you were to put the same, in my opinion, the same recording quality on Hell Awaits as you did Rain and Blood, I feel like it would be a higher regarded album, maybe. But Hell Awaits, so that's it. Hell Awaits, Haunting the Chapel, Rain and Blood, South of Heaven, Show No Mercy. I'm going to live by that. I'm going to live with that.
I will just throw this out real quick. Hell Awaits is my favorite. But I will say this again, because I'm not going to give a Slayer diatribe. Except you mentioned their live Decade of Aggression, and you mentioned Hell Awaits. This is not my favorite Slayer song. But my favorite recorded Slayer track is the second track from Live Decade of Aggression, when they go to the Antichrist immediately after playing Hell Awaits.
It's like,
that is my favorite thing Slayer's ever recorded. That is my favorite thing they've ever recorded.
Damn it.
That being said, is it my favorite Slayer song, like on their record? Yeah, I love it. It's probably not my favorite Slayer song. My favorite Slayer songs are, I don't know. Hell Awaits, I certainly love. I love At Dawn They Sleep. I'm with you.
Hardening of the Arteries is awesome.
Yeah, I love Die by the Sword. I will stop very quickly. I like Mandatory Suicide too, but
Kill again.
Slayer.
No apparent motive. Just kill and kill again. Survive by smashing your zombies until the end. My life's a kind of battle of the rage of many men. I'm a silent maniac. I love that song.
My thing with Slayer, and I always say that in a lot of ways, I'm actually a big Slayer fan, and in a lot of ways, I'm not. It doesn't really make any sense. I guess my problem with Slayer was always they're a track band, not an album band. And I just gravitate to bands that I want to listen to whole albums. Slayer in the 80s, though, do have a ton of songs I like. They really do. They have a ton of songs I like.
I want to listen to
But there's a reason why when I listen to... I just listen to Decade of Aggression. I almost never listen to Slayer other than Decade of Aggression and sometimes Divine Intervention, which I know sounds like turd, but I like a lot of songs.
You need Live Intrusion.
No. Yeah. But I have that on video.
And you can watch Kerry King like super hump his guitar.
All right. I'm going to do one more.
All right, let's do it.
Again, dude, it is funny that we skipped the handful that were like just there for you.
Except for Slayer.
We skipped.
Now I really just want to listen.
Yeah.
I listened to Hell Awaits last night. Now I just really want to listen to Decade of Aggression. Oh man,
Yeah.
I really want.
I kind of want to listen to the first like 3 albums.
I do too. Like I want to listen to Slayer now.
I'm probably going to go do that. Okay. So there's two on here that I have absolutely no opinion on. And a couple that are just more you, but I will give you one of the 2 that I have no opinion on whatsoever. So I just figure you can have fun with this one. All right. We're going to go Mortician albums. Zombie Apocalypse, Chainsaw Dismemberment, Domain of Death, Hacked Up for Barbecue, Darkest Day of Horror. Like that.
All of them?
I don't know. What's that?
All of
That's
them?
not all their albums. Is that all their albums?
No, it's not. But it's like a majority of them. Jeez.
No. I was looking at like, where's the... Well, okay, let me say this. Trim that down how you think it should be trimmed down. Like, trim that down to 4. I gave you 5. If you want to trim it down to 4, just to make it a little bit more doable, do that. I kind of went in order. Like, what I did was I skipped House by the Cemetery. I went Zombie Apocalypse, Chainsaw Dismemberment, Domain of Death, and then I went to Darkest Day of Horror.
Oh, here we go.
But it's Darkest, and then Hacked Up for Barbecue.
So
those are the albums by them I know, but if you want to trim one of those off, be my guest.
So their albums are like, oh, man.
I just know you like a bunch of these. That's why
Their actual albums. So say them again, please. House by the Cemetery.
No, I didn't put House by the Cemetery on there. I skipped that one.
Okay.
So I went in order: Zombie Apocalypse,
Okay.
Chainsaw Dismemberment, Domain of Death, Darkest Day of Horror, Hacked Up for Barbecue.
Okay, so
if there's one of those you want to trim off, just
we're gonna trim off. Zombie Apocalypse is an EP. I'll just do the look. You know what I'm gonna do? I'll do their studio albums.
Start with Chainsaw then.
There's 5 studio albums. There's Hacked Up for Barbecue, Chainsaw Dismemberment, Domain of Death, Darkest Day of Horror, Reanimated Dead Flesh. So I'm just gonna do this.
So you didn't count. Okay, go for it.
Yeah, I didn't count Zombie Apocalypse, which I do like, and I do have a patch for it. And I didn't count House by the Cemetery, which I also have, which is also an EP.
Yeah, I didn't count House by the Cemetery, and I didn't. Okay, go for it. Cool.
So I'll do the studio album. So I'm going to say Chainsaw Dismemberment's my favorite. After that, I'm going to say Darkest Day of Horror, then Domain of Death, Hacked Up for Barbecue, Reanimated Dead Flesh. And here, I'll explain why. So Chainsaw Dismemberment.
Yep.
I'm going to be honest with you. In full disclosure, I love listening to Mortician. I am not, by any stretch of the imagination, somebody that sits there and analyzes track by track. Oh, I love the song.
There's a bunch of these you like.
I am not someone who sits there and I love the song Island of the Dead. I love the song Psychotic Rage. No, I listen to their albums. I put on one of their albums and I enjoy listening to it. I have all of their albums on vinyl. That's not me saying I have all their albums on vinyl swinging my junk around. No, I'm saying I do listen to these albums, but I listen to them as pieces of work. And truthfully, the funny thing about Mortician, I will say this, is with all the samples they include in their songs, I generally don't understand how... What's interesting about Mortician is this. So, and I'm going to go in a different direction with this, and something that's kind of ridiculous. It's going to sound ridiculous at first, but it might make sense later. So, I always think of the Natural Born Killers soundtrack. Trent Reznor produced the Natural Born Killers soundtrack after he had watched the film Natural Born Killers. He produced the soundtrack to be a audio companion to the movie. And so in the soundtrack, There's lots of samples from the movie. They sometimes blend into the song. They sometimes like cover up the intros to the songs or overlapped over the intros. So generally speaking, if you listen to the Nine Inch Nails song Something I Can Never Have off the Natural Born Killers soundtrack, there's this weird sample over it that almost doesn't make sense. But if you listen to the soundtrack, it makes sense. So it's a different version of the song than what you'd hear in Pretty Hate Machine. So the reason I'm saying that is because I find Mortician samples when you're trying to listen to a song to be annoying as hell. Because they will take an audio clip that's 3 minutes long from a horror film for a 30-second song or for a 1-minute song. So the sample that they put before the song will actually be longer than the song. But when you're listening to an album, it's kind of like watching, I don't know, maybe a horror film clip compilation or something where it kind of feels like more. When you try to do an individual song, like my favorite Mortician song of all is off Darkest Day of Horror. My favorite Mortician song they ever wrote is Darkest Day is Dead and Buried. I actually even covered that song on our YouTube channel. I never remember
the song that I think of.
You probably think of Dr. Gore. It's off of Domain of Death. We used to play that on the radio all the time.
What's the dun dun dun?
Dr. Gore.
Dun. Okay, that's the only song of theirs I like think of.
Dr. Gore, that's the song. We used to play it on the radio off Domain of Death.
I thought it was Dr. Gore, but
it's with the girl with the like blood tear running down her eye. It's off. Yeah, so we used to play Dr. Gore, which is a cool song. But that's the thing. It starts off with it's
a super cool song.
But that's the thing. It's a cool song. Like Mortician is one of those bands that has discovered how to write the catchiest frickin' guitar riffs ever and play them for 30 seconds and quit. Like
they write the catchiest guitar riffs ever and guarantee you'll never notice they're there because
the drum machine's going the whole time
because you can't get through the freaking samples to hear it.
Well, that's the thing.
And the horrible vocals are so very. I mean, you can't.
No, I get it. So, but that's the thing. Like Mortician. So my point about Mortician is that if you listen to the albums, the horror movie samples, they start to become part of the albums. And I think that's kind of like what they were taught, again with...
Well, it's part of who they are.
Well, but I mean, it's like the Natural Born Killers soundtrack. If you're trying to listen to Something I Can Never Have, it's annoying to have this sample from the movie in the beginning of it because you're like, I'm just trying to listen to this song, and you're putting this stupid sample from a movie that I have or have not seen. I don't know, whatever. And I just want to hear the song. And you have to understand that in the context of that soundtrack, it makes sense. When you're just trying to listen to that song, it doesn't. So that's the thing about Mortician is you can't look at, I like that song by them. I like that song by them. I like that song by them. Because that's not really... Look, it sounds stupid to hear that, you're supposed to listen to a grind album in the context of the album, not song for song. But it is, you're right, it is that way. You're supposed to sit down and listen to Hacked Up for Barbecue. You're supposed to sit down and listen to Darkest Day of Horror. You're not supposed to say, I want to listen to Dead and Buried. Because you're going to hear a 3-minute sample before it.
It's not to say that doesn't happen. You know what I mean? That there aren't any songs that would fit that bill. But no, that's what they are. Their albums are a horror movie in and of itself. Like you're supposed to listen to the whole... Which is kind of why I thought this was a fun... question because they are albums.
Yeah, I mean,
say what you want about them. I mean, I totally respect the band. I respect them for being nothing like they're.
You have to respect them, or else Will Raymer is going to shoot his pistol at you.
They're also, but I mean, they're unlike anyone. I mean, every band has a gimmick, like or hate theirs. Theirs is pretty cool.
There's this wood panel. There's this 1985. Cheap wood paneling on the walls behind their band pictures.
Mortician sounds like what Will Raymer looks... They sound like the band that it looks like Will Raymer would be in.
Yes, they do. And by the way, and we're not endorsed by Mortician, but if you'd like to get your signature Will Raymer fingerless leather gloves and sunglasses, they are available on their website.
So funny.
But so that's what I have to say. Chainsaw Dismemberment... I've always really liked that album. I again, if you say to me, name your favorite Mortician song, I can do that. Name your top 10 favorite Mortician songs, I can't do that. Why? Because I sit down and listen to their albums. It's like watching a movie. It's like, what's your favorite? What's your favorite? Saying to me,
favorite camera angles from.
Well, that's the thing. If you're saying to me, name your favorite. That's like saying to me, name your favorite time codes from the Friday the 13th movie. Well, I can't do that, but I love the part where Jason does this and this and that. Oh, well, okay. Well, that's, again, I listen to their albums. I enjoy their albums. I don't sit there and memorize track lists. If that makes me a poser, fine. I'm not into death grind. Okay, I'm a death grind poser. I'll embrace that. But to your testament, I have literally been listening to Mortician since the early 2000s. Yes, I know I haven't.
Yeah,
I didn't jump on board on Hacked Up for Barbecue. When Domain of Death came out, that's when I jumped on board.
Well, dude, you like horror movies a lot. I keep using this phrase, and I hate to keep using the same phrase. As ridiculous, Mortician might be ridiculous, but at the core of what they are, plays a lot to your sensibilities. It's horror movies. It's simple but cool, heavy guitar riffs. Yes, they overdo that. Yes, they take all of those things way too far. But again, if you strip it back a little bit, it's a lot of the stuff you like. It's,
part of the thing for me,
horror movie stuff, and
when I listen to Mortician,
a lot of it's stuff you like.
Yeah, when I listen to Mortician albums, part of it for me is like, ooh, do I know what movie that's from? And sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Yeah. And sometimes I look, I know that movie. Crap, I haven't watched that in a while. No, I'm a big horror movie fan. I love horror movies.
It plays to your sensibilities, and I keep hate, but it's the truth. I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny because
it's in your wheelhouse. They just take it a little too far.
I mean, there are some like content creators out there specializing in horror movies, and I'm listening to them talking, and I'm like, you're wrong. Like, and again, that's not me like, pulling my pud. That's me like saying, like, I love horror movies. I could start a horror movie podcast if I wanted to. And so Mortician plays into that. Like, Mortician's that marriage. And it's funny because metal and horror, we've always talked. I think we did a show about this one Halloween, and then we've talked about it a million times. Yeah, horror and metal go together like hand in hand. Like, I mean, freaking Death in '86, Evil Dead. They wrote about the movie Evil Dead. You have
Dead by Dawn.
Dead by Dawn. You have Deicide. You have The Exorcist, by Possessed, about the movie The Exorcist. They even have the little sample before it. I mean, like, horror movies, and even when you and I went to Duff's, that's what they did. They put on horror movies the whole night. Like, it's just kind of like one of those things where they go together, because Cannibal Corpse as a band, or a lot of death metal bands as a band, they are audio horror movies. Corpse Grinder even will, I believe, and I may be misquoting here, Corpse Grinder even said, like, I think it was Alex Webster actually said, he's like, yeah, our lyrics are gory, but they're basically, like, no worse than any horror movie you'd go watch in theaters. You can criticize us for saying we sing about this, but then you're going to go watch Hostel in the movie theater, which is worse than anything we're singing about, except for you're actually seeing it happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, plus Cannibal Corpse records are, good.
Well, that's true.
Anyway. Okay, so this was cool. I know we've been at this for a little while, and that was kind of my fault. But hey, here's the good news. We actually have about half of these still left. So maybe next week we can go back to these. Like I said, the Mortician one I don't even have an answer for. And there's a few here that there's at least one more that I would have no answer for, and a couple that I think you'd have a lot to say about. So we will see what happens with that. Anyway, I think it is about time we get out of here. We have been at this over 2.5 hours now, and we used to have like 3.5, 4 hour episodes, and we try really hard not to do it anymore. Usually it's my fault because brevity is not my strong suit. But anyway, like I said, it's been a cool night. It's always fun when we have topics like this where we can just kind of, go one right after another and not have to really think of anything.
And again, I want to
go ahead.
I was going to say, I want to remind everybody that if this episode sounds a little wonky, I'm working on it. I'm using a new software. We're using a new platform for broadcasting. So I don't know. It may sound great. It may sound bad, but hopefully it's something you'll at least enjoy listening to.
Yeah. I mean, the good news is it's a podcast. It's not like we're putting out Saint Anger, folks. It's a podcast. So at least as long as it doesn't sound terrible, it should be okay. Anyway, so as usual, hit us up on the social media pages. We'll get to you when we can. I always say this, but we're both pretty busy and we don't get on our social media very often. But so if we don't get back to you, it's not because we don't care. It's just because we probably haven't seen it yet. So go ahead and hit us up. Otherwise, remember, we never run ads. There's no sponsors or anything you hear us say. It's just us. And the show is always going to be free. So if you subscribe, I can't guarantee you're not going to get the clap, but you're never going to have to pay for it. So that's just the way that goes. I don't know what the hell. Anyway. Hey, I said it at the beginning of the show. I might as well say it again. So anyway, we want to thank you very, very much for listening. We will be back again next week. My name is Duff.
My name is Rex.
And we'll see you again next week on another episode of the Heavy Metal Hangover. Congratulations for actually making it all the way through this episode of the Heavy Metal Hangover.
With your beer-guzzling, head-banging hosts, Rex and Duff.